Alright, we are live, and ladies and gentlemen, what an announcement I have to make. TF bots actually work in Arena Respawn. Never would have guessed it. For anybody who doesn't understand why that's like super awesomely amazing, aside from the fact that TF2 bot AI is not the best, it's because in Arena mode, you actually couldn't. Bot AI didn't work at all. Like, bots would just sit and spawn, they wouldn't do anything, they wouldn't know to do anything. However, as it turns out, if you use capture the flag mechanics, because capture the flag is not a game mode, fun fact about that, if you just stick a flag anywhere in a map, bots automatically know what to do. They know to defend it and they know to cap it, and engineers know to build in pointless spots on Nucleus thanks to cannon fodder. So as it turns out, it's somewhat playable. I wouldn't call it like completely perfect. They tend to optimize for the wrong sort of thing. They tend to go for the wrong cores, and they have absolutely no idea that the midpoint exists. But to be fair, I'm running on a Nucleus right now, so it's not like people who play Nucleus know the point exists. Anyway, hello, Quibbles. Do you like owls? Why? Have you heard that somebody? Have you heard such things? Is that like a thing that you've heard about? Have you heard that I sound like an owl? See, look, he capped it. I'm so proud of him. Good job, Heavy Medic Combo. Anyway, so I've got a long list of things that I need to get to. I've got kind of a bug bash going on today, by which I mean there's just a lot of shit to do. There's a lot of stuff to catch up on that are like small bugs in the code. So it'd probably be a really irresponsible thing for me to try and improve the bot AI, so that'll probably be the first thing I do. Let's do some code. Screw this stuff. Probably gonna open up every stream with that though, because it's really cool. Alright, so this is the code that actually makes incidentally, this is what makes the bots work. It's like definitely not on purpose. So you know how in Arena Respawn, when you've got the flag, it actually gives you a little arrow, and the arrow tells you, hey, this is the nearest, God, what's it called? Like, this is the nearest spawn point that you can use to cap. That's actually this code here. It's happening every single frame. Probably don't need to do it every frame, but I do it anyway. And it goes through all the different spawn points and says, okay, who's closest to it? And if they find the spawn point, it just says, okay, basically update the thing that'll take the flag over there. So I've done all that because I wanted people to know how it works in terms of UI. But I haven't actually... Sort of a strange benefit of that is because this makes the UI update. It also makes the robots understand which spawn point to go to. So I can add in some code here that says, okay, instead of pointing to the nearest spawn point, go to the most optimal spawn point and cap that instead. Because right now the bots don't understand that the spawn points that are a bit further away from you give you an extra benefit of better overheal and things like that. They have no idea about that. So they're just going for nearest. So let's see if we can just do a quick hack to make this work and then actually get on to the things that are vaguely important for Arena Respawn, which definitely does not include this. I don't even know if we're ever going to run bots. It'd just be really cool if they worked. So because it'd be really cool if they worked, that's what I'm going to do. So let's see what we have. If status equals flag info dropped, so in other words, if this flag is not being picked up by somebody, then I don't care. I'm not going to update anything. But if the flag has been stolen, we're going to find who stole it. So this is MH owner entity, which means, oh, turn my magnifying glass. What am I doing here? MH owner entity is the name of, or the entity reference of the guy who picked it up. And then I'm going to say, okay, if you're a valid client, then I'm going to get all this information, figure out which one's the nearest spawn base to you, and I'm going to report that as the place where the flag needs to go. So if the nearest valid base isn't null, oh my gosh, I do a whole bunch of things here, don't I? Then the end result is that I teleport this flag target entity directly to whatever the nearest spawn base is. So if I can change that location based on whether or not you are a bot or a human, and I'm pretty sure I can, then I can get the bots to go further into their own territory when they're doing captures. So let's figure that out and then go back to things that are actually relevant to the game mode that need to get fixed by 4 p.m. today. This is essentially live procrastination now. That is where we are. So what am I doing here? Get the flag owner's origin, iterate through every single spawn base, only go for ones that are non-capped, which makes sense. We want to keep that same logic. And then what I'm doing is I'm validating it purely by distance. And I don't want to do it purely by distance. I also want to do it based on the buff that it would give you. So the ones with better buffs, I want that to have a higher priority. So what I'm going to do here, I could even do something like go to weighted system. Like if there's a really strong one further away and there's a really weak one closer to you, the weak one should probably win out because it's an easy capture. I could do a weighted system. Do I want to do a weighted system? So like multiply or have the distance based on whether or not you get a larger buff. Do I want to do something like that? Maybe I do. Let's do some experimental AI shit live. That seems like a good idea. So instead of going purely by distance, so I'm optimizing for distance, I'm instead going to give a score. And I'm going to base that score on a couple different things, distance included. And then I'm going to go and optimize for the largest score. So instead of nearest valid base, it's going to be best base, something like that. Where is near valid base actually getting instantiated? I can't find it. Where would I put it? Nearest, oh, it's right up there. String map, nearest, they're both string maps. Okay. So we're going to say this is actually not going to be nearest valid base. This is going to be best base. Which one's best base? And we're going to, instead of minimum distance, what's min distance? Oh, right. So that's the best distance we found so far, hence minimum distance. So instead we're going to say max score. And we're also going to say score. So we're going to give each spawn base a score. We're going to calculate it based on a couple of different elements. Then we go down here and we say for each spawn base, we collect the base, put it in this variable here. If the spawn base owner is not equal to the team, then we're going to do this. So if you already own a spawn point, it's never going to send you back to that spawn point. Another thing I do here is that if I can't find anything near, so if you've capped like every possible thing, it actually takes you to the midpoint because it's the only relevant thing left on the map. So that means that if bots have every single point, they're just going to dogpile on mid. It's not ideal, but it's better than just sitting there and doing nothing. It's Ada 3, so this is what it looks like. Yes, this is what Emacs looks like in particular. I am essentially a neckbeard developer, so I use what is essentially a Lisp machine to do my code. It's very customizable, which is why I like it. Most people use things like VB code or something more sensible, but this is me. I wrote my own little mode for source pawn, so some of the highlighting kind of works correctly. But you know, whatever. Wouldn't be something I'd recommend for a beginner. So let's go ahead and do some stuff. So we've already said that max score is going to be right, so we're going to set it to 0, I guess, right? Because we're going to optimize for the highest one, not the lowest one. Oh, this doesn't need to be a float anymore. Well, no, it'll be a float because we're going to be dealing with distance calculations. I'd rather not convert that all to integers. That sounds complicated. So we go ahead, we grab the distance, and then this is the only thing that we use to calculate the score. So we're going to change that up a bit. So first of all, we reset the score to 0. I'm going to have to change all my indents here because all this is indented with 2 spaces like a psychotic person would do. Also known as me of one year ago, I guess. Let's go ahead and change the indentation. There we go. That's better. My code can breathe now. And scores reset to 0. We get the origin of the spawn base. We calculate the distance between the spawn base and the player origin. And then we do some stuff. Oh, right, of course, I hit this to negative because in that way it's a special case. And we say if it's negative, then we're always going to assign this to be the best base until we find something better. That is how this algorithm works. So let's do it. So if max score is less than 0, or if this thing's score is greater than the current maximum score, then we're going to update the max score to be the current score that we've calculated, and we're going to set, instead of nearest valid base, we're going to say best base is currently this base. And I should change other references to that before I get back to that in the score calculation. So best base. If best base is null, do some stuff. Otherwise, do some other stuff. Get the origin of best base. And then fast base. And then we're going to teleport to the origin that we've gotten. Okay, cool. So now we just get to do the score calculation. So let's take the distance, and we're going to have the distance Do we want to have the distance? Do we want to divide the distance? I mean, even if I have the distance, it probably isn't going to be enough. I'm probably going to want to multiply it, not have it, or not divide it. I'm going to multiply... No, because we're optimizing for smallest distances, you moron. That won't work. Okay. So we're going to have to take the distance, invert it, and then add that to something useful. Let me think about this for a second. So smaller distances are better. How do we represent that in a number we want to get bigger? We invert it. And then we multiply that by whatever the hell we actually care about, like the buff stuff. But that's still not going to... I mean, a lot of these spawn bases, for example, the one on Ravine, that's like so much closer. It's like 6 times as close to the enemy spawn than your spawn. How exactly is that going to work, doofus? I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. This is a completely on-the-fly idea that I haven't tested in any way. So, yeah. Let's try this. So score is going to be equal to 1 over the distance multiplied by, and then I need to get the buff type. So somewhere in here we have spawnbase.inc, and I think we have buff type as a function in here. Yeah, so we have something that says, okay, for a given base, what kind of a buff are you going to get? Are you going to get no buff, so no overheal, or are you going to get a full buff because you're in friendly territory, or are you going to get only half of a buff because you are in neutral territory? So take that and multiply it, maybe. I feel like this isn't going to work well, but we're going to try it. We need to convert these into numbers to begin with, so this isn't really anything. I think this is an enum, technically. I could technically just get away with it being a number. Does help if you type it right. Does help if you type it right. Capital N, you jerk. There we go. Yes, you are an enum, and I think enums start at 0. So I could theoretically take the enum, view it as an integer, and add 1. So view as int spawn base buff type. This is essentially just a massive hack to see whether it even works. View as int spawn base buff type, and then its current base is base. And we're going to take that whole thing and multiply you by, or add you to 1. Add 1 to you, right? So this is still in the view as, yes. So if you're very far away, you're still going to get multiplied by a certain number. So you might become best base. And for now, I'm not going to do anything that applies only to bots because I want to see whether or not this actually functions in any way. It might not. So we're going to apply it to humans as well, just so I can see what it looks like. So here goes nothing, I guess. Kilo says I'd be honored to be named after a bot. Yes, if I do ever make bots, I'm going to call one of them Kilo because his movement is so bot-like. It just has to be that way. Alright, so we are in the development branch, I hope to God. I think this is up to date. I guess we're going to find out in a minute. Optimize spawn point. Optimize spawn point in HUD based on distance and buff. Let's just try it. Yep, failed to push. That means I'm not up to date, am I? No, I am not up to date. Well done, me. Always do a pull before you push. I have failed to do this. Don't make me merge. I don't want to merge. That's dumb. You're stupid. Merging is dumb. Don't do it. So cancel that. Oh god. Abort the merge. I just want to add this on top of the other commits. I don't want to do a merge commit. That's a mess. So we're going to instead... I think the easiest way would probably be to do a git stash here and then pop it back up. But I can't do that. I already did a commit. You can't stash a commit. I could just take note of this particular commit hash. 267E. And then reset to it, I think? Let's try that. Hashtag developer problems. Alright, oh, I don't have any music. That's my biggest problem right now. Of course I'm not able to code right now. I don't have any music. Let me fix that. God, duh. It's the most important part of being a developer. Putting your headphones in and blocking out the rest of the world. At least that's what my coworkers do. So, git reset hard one commit further down, and then do a pull so we shouldn't have any kind of conflict, and then do a git reset. I think it's a git reset. No, it'd be a git reset, but not hard, to 267E. Git log. Really? Is that? Oh no, I just did the reset, that's why. That is head, you idiot. Okay, fine. Fine. Okay, so now we're up to date with what we currently had. I just need to pop that commit. Git cherry, oh of course, git cherry pick 267E. See, cherry pick gets you out of all sorts of situations. That's why it's dangerous. Okay, so we update this and we do a push back up to GOGS and we do our first build of the day that's almost certainly going to fail for no reason. Let's take a look. We're going to respawn. Let's kick off a new build. And while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to get some music up. Need music. I knew there was something different. Yep, there we go. I can hear music now. Hopefully the stream cannot, so I don't get copyright struck. Come on, you can do it. While that's working, I'm going to see if there's anything I could have done better here. How else do you invert something? I mean, it's not like you can have a true maximum distance, so you're going to have to take the inverse, aren't you? I don't see any other way of doing that. Because distance, you know, theoretically goes to infinity, so by inverting it, you say that it theoretically tends to 0. And since we want it to get better over time, the closer it is to 1, the better. So this could work. This could work. I mean, this is pretty effing hacky right here, turning an enum back into an integer just because it so happens to be in the same order as I currently need it. But hey, if it works, it works. Did forget a semicolon. That was pretty smart. 3 errors. What have we got? Expected token, semicolon. I just found that. Weren't you paying attention? Do it again. Oh, there we go again. Undefined symbol distance. That's pretty important. Symbol's never used spawn base. Yeah, that doesn't matter. We just need to declare distance as something. Like a float. Because that's what it is. Am I on line 93? Am I at column 93? Good lord. That's terrible. Well, that's below 80 characters, I guess, technically. Not ideal. Let's do something else here. Let's do int. What do we want to call it? It'd be more like a scalar. So it's like buff scalar equals view as integer spawn base buff type base and +1 because otherwise it'll be 0 in certain places and that would be bad. And we multiply that by buff scalar. That also means that if I want that to be even more, I could say, oh, I want to multiply that by 2 or 3 or whatever. So this worked out all well all around, except that's 83 characters, so it didn't really. How can I make that any shorter? Not easily. Technically that. But the fact that I'm indented this many times means I'm screwed anyway, to paraphrase Linus Torvalds, so I'll probably have to come back to that at some point. What have we here? Oh, so much building, so little time. I think I should do the thing where I shut off the slower build worker. I'll do that after this one. Just because I'm impatient. I don't have my Threadripper yet. Oh, wrong one. Not root. Make sure that I actually have a faster worker. Yep. Tesseract is the one that's local to my machine, so I'd rather let Agamotto shut up for a bit. Oops. There we go. Oh, of course. That failed. That technically failed the build because I stopped the worker, but that's not going to stop me. Let's do the deployment. And see whether or not that means... I'm not even going to test it as bots, I'm going to test it as myself. See whether or not that means that I'm weighting the right things. So the whole point of this is to see whether or not I've optimized the nearest spawn point thing. I was going to say algorithm, but that's way fancier than anything I'm doing right now. Why are you on pause, jerk? There we go, you're building. And see whether or not I'm pointing to spawn points based partly on distance, but also partly on how strong they're going to be when I cap them. So yeah, I think we're about to finish building here, so let's hop into the server. So I fixed all the stream settings, maybe, kind of, a bit. Apparently YouTube does yell at you if you're doing more than 9,000 bit rate, unless you are doing full-on 1440p, so that's what we're doing today. We're doing full-on 1440p. And as it turns out, even an 8700K cannot correctly do the presets I wanted it to run on anyway. If you're doing the streaming and the development on the same computer. Where's my console? I could do with a console, please. Really, I mean, I sort of need that. Enable voice, boost microphone. Not video, idiot. It's under advanced. Yeah, advanced keyboard. Enable developer console. Maybe if I switch out and back in. Yep. Alright, so what I'm looking for is that when I pick up a flag, the arrow doesn't point me to something stupid. Hello, Bean Bean Derpenstein. Which I'm sure I'm pronouncing wrong in both respects. So let's go to Ravine, because Ravine's got a lot of different points, and it's going to be the most obvious to me. Also, it's my fave map, so what are you going to do about it? I find it kind of funny that, like, for every era of Arena Respawn, I have, like, a favorite map because it played the best. Like, for example, the original draft definitely played the best because it was very wide open and it was easy to attack the point. But now with, like, the remake, so to speak, I'm just going to do regular bots for now, by the way, even though the cooler bots are working. I want to test this first. Some Archon SV cheats 1, and then SM Archon bot, and then that like 3 more times. So like, Ravine works really well because it's got lots of different places for spawn points. Draft worked really well because it was almost impossible to hold the point, and since the original game mode was just so horrifically imbalanced, it was one of the few times where you really had a chance. Alright, so let's see which one this points me to when I pick up the core. But yeah, I really like YouTube allowing me to stream at a higher bitrate than Twitch. Alright, it is pointing me to... Whoa! Okay, interesting. It's pointing me to this one because it's very close. Now let's see if it does that again. It's not. It's pointing me to the one underground. Well, maybe that's... because it is a fair bit closer to me. So then that one fits too. Then I guess then it'll do mid. So this is not how I want it to be. I want the actual buff, the buff type to be much more of a factor. You see what I mean? See, because it's optimizing for me capping all the close ones first, and when you do it as a bot, it's kind of boring. It'd be much more fun for it to go for the more distant points first. Maybe I should cut the distance partially by buff. I think it would be at least easier for me to comprehend, even if there's an equivalent mathematical way of doing it. So let's say that for each distance, if you have a small buff type, you look at the full distance and So let's do, instead of max score, let's do weighted distance or something. It's going to be better. Negative 1.0. Oh, magnifying glass back up. And then this one's just going to be the current distance. Also, or dist, because we're cool developers and we don't want to type very much. And we get the distance here. I wonder if there's really that much optimization to be done when you just instantiate something out of a loop like this. Probably not. And then we do int buff scalar. So we're just going to actually modify the dist. We're going to do a weighted dist. So, and then this one's going to be max dist, or min dist. Wow, that's really a bad name for it now. Should be really be, maybe I should just call it min dist and forget it. So we're gonna say weighted. We're just gonna call it min dist. Screw it. Min distance. Hardest thing in computer science is naming your shits so it's actually accurate to what the hell you're trying to do. Comments are nice too, but just naming things what they are is very challenging for some reason. This isn't min distance, for example. This is just the current distance. And then we take the buff scalar and we're going to actually divide distance equals distance divided by buff scalar. So now we're going to say, okay, hey, if your buff is really good, we're going to have the distance. If your buff is really, really good, we're going to do a third of the distance. And that'll change things up a little bit, I think. So then we get rid of this score crap and we just say if min distance is less than 0, i.e. we never instantiated min distance, we haven't even done one loop yet, or if the minimum distance is greater than the current distance, so in other words we have a new minimum distance, then we're going to set the min distance to the current distance, and we're going to say best base is currently this base. We don't have to change anything else, I don't think. And we do the pushy and the buildy, and this won't be orange anymore, which will be nice. And now we'll see whether or not we get somewhat better results. So again, a point that's very close to where you are will always win out over a point that's like, if it's very close to where you are and the other point's very far away, the closer one's still going to win out, which is what I want. And but if there's one that's like only a little bit further and it's got a more powerful buff, then we're going to optimize for that. Undefined symbol score, also known as dummy, you forgot to change one of the variables. Yeah, I did. I did forget to change one of the variables. Screw you, compiler. Programming's hard, okay? So if anybody's got any questions about the game mode, this is the ideal time to ask me them. Because when I'm playing the game, I'm usually pretty focused on playing the game. If I'm programming, I can just stop programming and answer questions or whatever. Like, for instance, one of the things that I'm interested in is, would people like it if I added bots to the mode? Just to keep the server at 3v3 or 2v2 or something like that. Assuming that I do make them look like MVM bots, so it doesn't, like, it's not like I'm lying to anybody. It's not like I'm trying to make my server seem more full than it is. It's just that when you're in arena and there's no one there, the mode doesn't even start. Like, there's nothing for you to do. It is the most boring situation ever. So maybe 2 or 3 bots might help. Sticks win. 2020. That's what I said. I am sticking to that. I will get to No Man's Land in 2020. That is my goal. I really want to see this through to the end. As much as I'd love to switch tracks and just start working on like the bot game mode, let's just get this game mode to the finish line and get some pugs in and try and get some publicity. Hopefully that doesn't mean connecting into a Russian network or something, which is what I know Marshmallow wants me to do. Actually nothing to do with their network. I'm sure it's very nice, but I don't want to take on someone else's ban list and then find out somebody was banned for like a political reason and then suddenly I'm involved in that. I'd much rather we just build our own ban list. We should probably look into things like source bans plus or whatever they're using. I know that's got a nice interface. I mean, the nice thing is right now we're very small, so any hackers, if any, It's happened, but it's been few and far between. Either the admins are on, or I've just enabled vote kick if admins aren't on. So that problem will probably take care of itself. But if we do get bigger, we're probably going to want to do something a bit better than that. I should really have an alias for this. I'm going to say that every stream now. Like every stream, I'm going to be like, oh, I should really have an alias for this. And then every stream I won't make the alias for this. There we go. Let's see what it points me to now. I feel you should add in going to the nearest point before a buffed point, just so you have your slower trickle. So, I think that there's reasons why you would go to the nearest point. I think that, like, let me put it this way. When humans play the game, we definitely have reasons for going to the nearest point versus the buffed point. Hang on, let me check something. Okay, so this one's now point. Oh, it's pointing to this one. This is what I wanted. It was going for mid first. Perfect. We know, like, when it's safe, if you're in a very safe situation or there's a lot of people still alive, like, you're gonna want to go back to the enemy space or your friendly space and try to cap something there. Wow, that's really interesting. It's really preferring the wrong kind. Oh, of course it is, because it has no idea what the buff type is. Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to play with that for a minute. So all I want to do is make the bots kind of follow the same logic. Like, if you're in a desperate situation or if you don't have any points, you're still going to get the one that's nearest to you. Like, you might cap this one. But otherwise, you might go for a larger advantage. The bots have no idea, though, so they never go for the points that are further away, which I think makes for less interesting bot gameplay, both because it means that they're giving up a higher, like, better bases, and also because it means that they're not encountering one another as much as they otherwise would. They just end up in this situation where all the bots are sitting on one side and all the other bots are on one side. But if I force their CTF logic to cross paths more often, it means that we're going to get more fun bot rounds, basically. It also didn't swap from the hill to the underground point. Yep, good point. Something is up with my calculation, for sure. In fact, let's see where this one goes. This one is going under... It's going to this one. Look at that. That's really strange. It's never going to the underground one. Look at that. I'd have to cap that one first. But I think the reason why that is I'm doing the wrong kind of division. I think that when I have... Let me show you. Why explain when I can just show? Let's just show. Show don't tell, right? It's like the writing advice that they give you. Also streaming. So if I look at what I'm doing here, where what kind of scalar I'm saying, okay, get the buff type for this base. However, this does a comparison to the current owner of the base. It doesn't do a comparison to what you would get if you capped the base. So I'm going to have to add in a parameter here to say buff type base and a specific owner. So in other words, or by owner I mean team. The team is what owns the base. It's kind of like owning a cap point. Either red or blue owns the base. So I'm going to change this in. I'm going to make a different parameter here. And hopefully that will make things slightly more betterer. So first I need to find which team I'm currently talking about. And this gets a little bit confusing because I'm talking about the opposite team to the flag owner. But I am always talking about the same team as the actual person who is carrying the flag. So maybe I'll just grab that. Oh, I'm doing that. TF team, view as TF team, team int. Why am I getting that, I wonder? I'm sure there's a reason. Oh, because you want to make sure that the owner is not the current team. Okay. So we're going to say, for the sake of this check, pretend the base has already been capped and the owner is team. And that's 85 characters already. God. Buff type buff equals spawn base buff type base team. And then we say int buff scalar equals view as an integer the buff type. So convert back to an int and then add 1. And then we do the division. Hopefully we're not dividing by 0 at any point, because that'd be pretty funny, but I'm pretty sure an exception would show up if I did that. Oh, I forgot to actually change the function. That's quite helpful when you add a new parameter. It doesn't just magically work. Maybe it isn't updating what point it wants you to go to. No, that's not the problem. It's always updating every single frame. It's just that I was not taking into account who the base would belong to. That's part of the issue. So spawn base underscore buff type. Let's go find that function. And I could do with more caffeine, in my opinion. Spawn base buff. I still need to, I want to do like trickle charge. If I can get trickle charge in by 3 or 4, that'd be amazing. I don't know how likely that is. I'm playing with bots right now for some reason, so this is essentially how I do my real job too. So, oh, do this, Chris. Great. I've done something completely different. TF team owner. So, and this defaults to, is null a type? Can I do that? Can I just do TF team unassigned? How many characters? 76. So if owner equals TF2, no, because that's a valid, you don't want to do that. That's a valid owner. You can't set it to null. I'm pretty sure that there's no such thing as null in this case. It's not an object. I just might have to do this as the sensible default. Actually, there's another one. TF team unknown. Technically it's 1. TF team unassigned is 0. Most places in Team Fortress 2 either use unassigned, so it's 0, or red or blue, which are 2 and 3 respectively. Unknown is an extra one. It's actually 1. So I can check off of that. So if owner is equal to TF team unknown, in other words, if you haven't passed this parameter in, then we're going to set the owner variable to spawn base owner base, because we're assuming that you're talking about the current owner of the base. Then we're going to take all these other guys and we are going to replace spawn base owner base. So this function call we're going to replace with now just the variable owner. So if the owner was defined when we came into the function, it's going to return the buff type as if the base was owned by that owner. Otherwise, we're going to return the current, we're going to return what the situation looks like relative to the current owner of the base. That shouldn't break any of my old code, and it should work with my new code. Let's build it. The client wanted Arena Respawn for their financial application, right? Yeah, right, exactly. Now, I never do personal work at work because then that's illegal. Not illegal, it's a legal problem if you do that sort of thing. Like, who owns the work? Technically, the company owns the work. What have we got? Alright, 2 errors, yay. Okay, TF team unknown, despite my rant, apparently doesn't exist. I am pretty darn sure it exists. What is this called? Source mod. Okay, okay. Give me the enum then, you jerk. Spectator is one you... Oh, I'm such a moron. I could use spectator as the one that doesn't count. Because you can never have the spawn base owned by a spectator. I just don't want to make it unassigned, because that's a valid value. So let's try that. I thought it was TF team unknown. Bleh, whatever. Or maybe it is TF team unknown in the Source 2007 leak. And spectate just happens to be an unknown team or something. I don't know. We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out if this pointy thing works. Having music definitely improves this. Alright, cool, we built. Now we just need to deploy. It auto deploys, I'm just impatient. Let's take the magnifying glass off. Whoa, no Drosty effect there, please. So this is pretty exciting because I am using a live compressor. So every time I talk, like little lights flash. It makes me feel very professional. Oh man, that is gross. I think I just found something in my iced tea. Yuck. Anyway, not drinking that shit. Alright, so this will have restarted. Let's get in there. Really helps when you keep all your development to your one powerful desktop. Oh yeah, I could actually be changing this so that we go into Arena Ravine every time. Let's do that. Lab tf. No, not sudo, you idiot. What is wrong with me? So ssh root lab tf.local, and if I edit, if I go into srv tf2 arena respawn, and I edit the environment file, I can actually set it so it doesn't go to Lumberyard every time it goes to Ravine. Sudo systemctl restart arena tf2 arena respawn. See, so I've made this kind of generic systemd service called tf2. And then Arena Respawn is actually the name of the particular server that I'm working in right now. So if we want to add more different, more server types, it's actually called Arena Respawn Dev, isn't it? No, it's called Arena Respawn in this case. So if we want to add different server types, we can do that and run them all on the same server. Just makes it very flexible. It sounds nice too. I am glad to hear that because it was not cheap. Technically, I could just be using the audio compressor on whatever it's called. What the hell is this thing called? OBS. But I'd much rather be using a physical one because it means that I can be compressed all the time, even if I'm like sitting in Discord and stuff like that. Turns out when I was using it the other day, I was not using the compressor settings correctly. This is the actual honest-to-God compressor settings. It really sucks that I found like a fucking hairball or something in my iced tea. This is really a strange situation to be in. Okay, so now this one's optimizing for mid, which is what we want. Or it's not. It's actually optimizing for... Oh, interesting. Because this one's really close. Right, okay. Let's go ahead and cap it. Let's pretend we're a robot. Beep, boop, beep. Okay, this one's also really close, so it's optimizing for that one. This is looking a lot similar to what it would have done even if I didn't have this special shit in it. So either the weighting isn't large enough, or... Actually, it seemed to have preferred that one a fair amount over the mid one. I'm pretty sure it would have preferred the mid one before. But either way, I think I'm going to have to rethink this a teeny bit. Oh yeah, I want to fix that thing where it doesn't pick things up on the spawn point. That'll be the next thing we do after the bots. Because that's a bug that's bugged me for a very long time. But apparently we're just in Awk does TF2 AI mode right now. Alright, so I don't think that the division is quite strong enough here. But fortunately it's math, so I can just take that and say buff scalar. We can just multiply that or some crap. Yeah, that's math for you. Let's just multiply that or some crap. Let's multiply it by a huge amount. Really exaggerate the effect. Because that'll tell me whether or not it's actually functional. Always doubt whether or not your code's even remotely functional, because you don't know. You might be assuming that your code is trying your best when it's not even executing, so just go for the extreme case. In this case, multiply buff scalar by 5. Because now that should vastly override the distance itself in terms of what's important. It's going to say, hey, if I'm going to get a buff type of full, I'm going to make that way more important than if I was just getting a buff type of, you know, if I was getting no buff type. Should probably check the order is right. Yeah, I have none, half, and full. So that's correct. So it should be weighted in the right order. It's kind of just a coincidence, but it's a very handy coincidence and I'm running with it. This is really a lot of fun. I gotta be honest. Just talking out what I'm doing and sort of why I'm doing it. Maybe it's like iced tea mix that's sitting at the bottom of my glass. It just looks like a hairball. I don't know, if I tilt it anymore, I'm gonna spill it over my keyboard and I'm gonna have a much larger problem. Let's not do that. Retry. Retry just connects to the most recent server, BT Dubs, if you didn't know that. I can't believe I've been doing this for 45 minutes already, and this is not even relevant to gameplay. Yep, that's what we're doing today. Whatever I find interesting. and not necessarily what's relevant to gameplay. Also, the fact that it keeps showing up and saying, hey, you're number 1 in the respawn queue when you've been dead for like 0.2 seconds, also a bug. Also know how to fix it. Also want to fix it this stream if possible. If you got crap in the bottom of your tea, it's the worst. Yeah, but this is like store-bought iced tea. I don't understand what's going on here. Okay, so it really prefers this one. But then all of a sudden it starts preferring this one? No, it's still preferring the one underneath me. Flipping why? Why it shouldn't be preferring that at all. Hence why you never trust that your code is even working. You just never do it. So I could just start spitting out lots of debug messages and stuff and worrying about that. But I think I'd much rather prefer... See, that's interesting. It's really preferring to go there, which seems correct. Because that one's got a much stronger buff type. I could just go even more extreme and multiply by 10. That's right, we're on TF2 times 10 now. That's where we have arrived. Let me just make sure there's nothing glaringly obvious here that I'm missing. Turn the magnifier back on. But yeah, I haven't had real tea in a while. I love real tea. I don't know, it's like a hobby by itself, is just tea. So I haven't been into that for a bit. I feel like I'm out of the tea game. Distance equals distance divided by the buff scalar times 10. Hence. I mean, one of the problems is that I'm working with both a float and an int. Hopefully this is coming out correctly as a float divided by a float. Just going to make sure that's really, really the case. So now, if I'm reading this right, essentially the type of buff you're getting is going to matter 10 times more than the distance that it's at. One thing I could be confusing is the enum might not be starting at 0, but I'm pretty sure they do. I imagine it's going to work the same in C as it does in Source Spawn. Enums start where people can go wild with their T-shit. Yeah, I love T-shit though. What default enum values is C and same for all compilers. Yes. Required by the standard, so in this case x equals 0, y equals 1, z equals 2. Which is what I'm assuming here. I'm assuming that each buff type is... This one's going to be 0, then 1, then 2. I'm assuming all that. But yeah, I've got like a proper tea kettle thing and everything. I just, actually, ironically, what I'm missing is the teapot itself and or tea leaf. I should just get some tea leaves. What's wrong with me? Why do I not drink tea? My main problem is that then I get caffeinated for, I mean, the caffeine from tea hits me pretty hard. Even though it's less caffeinated than coffee. Yay, we're building fast now. So now it should, by far... Oh, that's weird. The frame rate in the magnifier is different to the frame rate on the rest of my monitor. Good job, Microsoft. It really should prefer a point completely on the opposite side. More than anything else, pretty much, no matter what my distance is. It should just be like, yeah, go to the opposite side, if this is working. Build, you bastard. This one isn't a build, it's just a server refresh. But yeah, you can go really crazy with tea stuff. You can get like tea cakes imported from like Japan or whatever. You can get like an actual tea... Like tea cakes are really cool, honestly. There was somebody at work that would bring them in and we would just break them up. I think it was pu'er tea. Probably not even pronouncing that right. Enthusiast grade tea. Yeah, exactly. Exactly that. Also, apparently when you are streaming at 1440p, like a lunatic, there is some you can't get past the stream delay. Fortunately, it doesn't matter for me, but just pointing that out there. If you do it in up to 1080p, I think it'll do it in near real time for YouTube, but as soon as you hit the higher resolutions, it's like, nah, bruh. I definitely like this more than Twitch. I think I might start doing some gameplay stuff on here too. Like Arena Respawn playtest streams. Okay, let's see what we point to. It's still pointing to the one at the bottom. Considering that more important than anything else. I am very close to it, so that might be part of it. But it seems to be almost exactly... No? Well, look at that. I have to... Okay, so this is actually some good news, right? Look at how close I am here. And it starts pointing... You know, this is the middle of the map right here, right? So, I'm all the way over here, and it's preferring this one. But as soon as I go over here, it immediately starts preferring the one over here. So it seems like it is more buff-based than distance-based. Just not over the scale that I would have wanted. So... It's working, just not as strongly as I'd prefer. I'd prefer this to go to mid first. Because it's more important or something. So one of the... Oh yeah, by the way, this is a really funny bug that I can do nothing about. Decals, and that includes things like bullet decals, because all these things up here are just decals. Decals can randomly become about 5 times the size. So you'll notice this is supposed to be the decal of the paint blob, and it's just come up 5 times the size. Nothing you can do about it. It happens even sometimes if you're firing at a wall, you'll just suddenly fire and there will be like a crater where the wall used to be. That's just source. Can't do anything about that. So I guess what I could do too is cap this one down here. You know what? Well, no, the amount of hammer units really shouldn't matter here. If you think about it, because I'm dividing it by 2 or 3 depending, or 1 or 2 depending. No, 2 or 3. Where is this going to take me? Yeah, it's a big decal. This one prefers this one because it's so much closer, which I think that human players would too. They would go and grab this one if they can. And now it's going to prefer the ones on the other side. It's so freaking close to what I want, but not quite. Because if I unleash the bots now, they're going to definitely still do the same strategy they were doing before. So how do I make it matter even more? So effectively, by doing the times 10, I'm saying make it a 10th of the distance if it's a medium buff type, and make it a 20th of the distance if it's a large buff type. And now that I'm looking at it, like the ratios between where this is and where that is, 10 and 20 really aren't enough. It's going to have to be like times 50 or something to get what I want. Let's try that. Don't log me out now, bruh. Yeah, welcome to programming. Hey, let's change one character and rebuild and see if that works. I shouldn't say welcome to programming. Welcome specifically to TF2 modding. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. And this, by the way, is not something I'm going to give to human players unless it works out really well. Because there are probably circumstances where, like, to new players, having an arrow to go to a better base might be a better thing. Like, if you're an off-blast, for example, and the midpoint is just, like, so close to where you picked up the core, maybe it should point to the midpoint. I don't know. Another problem is that it only does a 2D distance, because in TF2, in almost all circumstances, the XY distance is all that matters. There's not a lot of maps that are highly vertical. I feel like it's not just source modding. It's anything where you're working with a black box, basically. You know, if I were working with something that was just a local Python project, I could just test with my unit tests. I would instantly know what the result would be. This, not so much. Alright, so it's deploying. It won't be too much longer now. And I am almost an hour into it. Whether this works or not, I think I'm going to stop in another 5 minutes and move on to something that's actually relevant to the gameplay. There's 2 bugs that have been annoying me for a long time. One of them is that when you go and cap a spawn point, you immediately lose access to the pickups on that spawn point. I like the fact that spawn points replace pickups. I think I just crashed TF2, by the way. I do like the fact that spawn points replace pickups because it's kind of silly that, like, if you are a red person and you've got a red spawn point and there's a neutral health pack on it and somebody could just swoop in and grab it, I feel like that's going to make some of the fighting a bit more uneven than I want. I want it to be a very obvious advantage that someone on the red team on a red spawn point is going to be stronger than you if you're approaching them and you don't have a source of healing. So being able to suddenly get half your health back in the middle of that fight, kind of a mixed message. Rather not do that. Yeah, I did crash TF2, by the way. Don't know how. See how my stream health is doing according to YouTube. Your stream's audio bitrate is 0 is lower than the recommended bitrate. Yeah, okay. Maybe because I was quiet for like a minute when it was building. I like that it gives you feedback though. I mean, when you're on Twitch, the only way that you know whether or not your stream is fucked is if somebody tells you. YouTube will just tell you. Strongly prefer that. That, and plus, if you build up a community on YouTube, you don't have to take them to another site just to stream. I think YouTube's going to win this one. I think it's going to take a while. A couple years at least. But I think YouTube's going to win this one. Please tell me you're going to mid. You're not going to mid, you jerk. Should be really strongly preferring this one. It's only kind of. So let's go ahead and take care of the one that it's most sort of attracted to, which is this one by far. Because it's so close. Now let's pick it up again. Nope, tell me to go to this one. Doesn't give a shit. It's a hard task to not crash TF2? Yeah, or it's not a hard task to crash TF2. Yes, you're not wrong about that. Not even a little bit. We actually did segfault the EU server. I have no idea how. It was a pretty normal gameplay as far as I could tell. But there is a possibility that somewhere in my code there's something that will segfault the server. So that's pretty cool. Okay, how is it that exaggerating it all the way up to 50 doesn't make a difference? It could be because hammer units are so large? I mean, or so small rather, there's so many of them. Like between here and here on the map is probably at least 1,000 hammer units. So shrinking the distance isn't making that much of a difference. Maybe I should just go right up to 1,000 and see what the fuck happens. I think I'm playing with numbers that are a bit too small for what I want it to do. Yeah, this is getting pretty repetitive now. But I'm very interested in wrapping this particular part up in the next like 2 or 3 minutes. They finally started testing out sub perks. If they can get a contract with Discord, it might start doing better on top of that. And if they had a better chat system. Yeah, the chat system isn't ideal, but I do appreciate that slow mode is integrated inside of it. So I can watch a popular streamer and not immediately get my eyes spammed out. I know that people have bots for that kind of thing in Twitch, but it's nice that it's native. And the whole idea of like, you know, super chats and donations is pretty nifty. I know that Twitch has their equivalent, but this seems to have been implemented in a more clean fashion. Alright, did this build? Yeah, of course, because it would have been red otherwise, that's the point. Okay, so now we've exaggerated this to such an extent that it really should make a difference. If it doesn't, then I've screwed something up royally. If min distance is greater than distance, then we need to set min distance to distance. Or if min distance is less than 0, that means it wasn't set ever. That condition should be right. It's just thinking like if I screwed up something like major, then of course this won't work. So it's between buff scaler times 1,000. And the buff scaler, the other assumption I'm making is that the ones that won't give you a buff, this whole buff scaler times 1,000 thing, it should be, oh, it's not dividing by 1, is it? Of course it's not. It's dividing by 1,000. Okay, I predict this one have made a difference because I think I made a massive mistake. Streamlabs is independent, it's so easy. I didn't even know Streamlabs was a thing, to be honest. One thing that does suck, I've noticed, as a new YouTube person trying to get into YouTube, I find it easier to remember their dashboard URLs than to find their dashboards. Like, I don't know how to find the live dashboard. It seems impossible to me. Yeah, everything that's happening here is a ratio of 1, 2, and 3. It's going to be the same thing. This isn't... It's kind of hard for me to understand, like, or explain, like, what I'm intuitively understanding here about the math, but I now understand why I've done this wrong. So, let's magnify. So, no matter what I do, I'm essentially... I'm exaggerating it to some extent, but it's really the difference of a third, no matter what I do. Since even in the case where it has no buff at all, it's going to divide it by 1,000 anyway, so of course it's only going to be a third. So what I really want to do is I want to divide only those that do have a buff, and I just want to make it stronger for other ones. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to get buff scalar to be... I'd like this to be essentially 1 if it's got no buff, which it currently resolves to. I'd like it to be 2 if it has a buff. But 2 isn't large enough. That's the problem. We're gonna have to get some exponents up in... Yeah, so if I do power here... I think it's... I can't remember how to do powers in this stupid thing. It's certainly not like any other language I've worked in. Pow! Float value, float exponent. It is literally just pow. Okay. So we're going to take 2. We're going to raise it to the power of buff scalar. And we're going to remove this nonsense with the 1. Because we want 2 to the 0 to be 1, 2 to the 2... Yeah, this should work. I'm really not explaining well at all. Basically, I want the distance to be considered exactly the same as it was if there was no buff. I want it to be... In this case, it'll be divided by 2 if there's a small buff, and then it'll be divided by 4 if it's a large buff. Now that's a difference that I think I'm going to actually be able to feel. And it just so happens that that works with powers of 2. Oh, this should be a float. God damn it. Of course you need to be a float, you jerk. I can't just do a view as float because that'll screw it up. This should really be... Can I do this? This seems really iffy. This can't be right. Where'd that come from? Buff scalar. Do you have to be a float? Do you really have to be a float? Of course you have to be a float. I'm sure you do. So let's do... How do you do into float? String to float, no. Float to string, no. How do you do the conversion in source pawn? If it were C, I'd know it. Bleh. Into float? Isn't it into float? Integer to a float conversion. Yeah, float I view as float won't work. Oh, literally just... It is like C, you just do float. So I could just theoretically stick that down here. Because otherwise that's going to treat an integer as a floating point variable, and as we all know from the 11 million health debacle, that's a bad situation to be in. Let's trigger a new build. Because that's effectively what it was. I think I was treating a float as an integer, and boy, those data representations are not equivalent. Not even a little bit. If this doesn't work, then I really need to move on. It's just hard for me to move on from problems that aren't solved. But there's more important things I really should be focusing on for the playtest. Anything gameplay impacting, it's wise to get in for a playtest so I can actually test it. Sounds crazy, I know. There we go, triggered the new build. Triggered the new build is like my version of fan spin. For people who watch like Louis Rossman or the Mac guy, whatever his name is. So the only thing missing in my audio setup is a noise floor. I have the noise floor working digitally with OBS, so you can't hear the background noise, but I can hear the background noise. That sucks. But actually, when I've got music playing, I can't really hear it, so maybe I shouldn't complain.
Let's get 'em.
It's pretty crazy how quickly you get used to just wearing headphones and listening to your own voice in real time. It just feels like you're not wearing headphones.
Play ball.
Okay, let's see what we've got. So now this should be significant.
We have taken the enemy
And it's taking me to... doesn't seem to give a shit. But I think I'm more along the correct lines than I will. Yeah, look at this. Look. I'm all the way over here now. And I'm not dividing by like 1,000 or anything crazy like that. But I'm all the way over here. And it's preferring this one much more strongly. And it's preferring this one. And you can see it's pretty much by a factor of 4. So how can we make that a bit stronger? We could make it... Well, we could just increase the base exponent, couldn't we? And we could just increase it to like 4. And then this would be even more significant. And we could increase that to 8, and that would be even more significant. So let's go all the way up to 8. But we're doing things mathematically correct now. These sort of... Working with powers is going to give us a much better result than working with just a straight up extremely large number. Like, that's not going to do anywhere near as much for us. We're in like logarithmic areas here. This is essentially how I taught myself trigonometry when I was like 14, as I was trying to do some like 2D gaming stuff, and as it turns out, almost everything that you intuitively understand or you intuitively want is more or less covered by either trigonometry or like movement on the screen, for example, and also like doing sine and cosine waves creates very natural movement, or things like logarithms and powers. Like when I say something like instinctively, I would like this base to have more pulling power than this base that's closer. If you look at it linearly, it's almost never going to happen. That's essentially what we were doing. We were just dividing by incredibly large numbers. We didn't get anywhere. But as soon as you introduce powers into the equation, it starts to feel more correct. It starts to feel like, yes, this one is more powerful than that one. That's my understanding of math. I understand math pretty much exclusively from a computer scientist and or game programmer's perspective, not from like an actual mathematical perspective. Although I watch Numberphile, which makes me feel slightly more smart. Come on, you can do it, server. This is actually the thing that depresses me most of, like, my overpowered build. No matter how much hardware you throw at anything, you can't get TF2 to join a server quickly. It doesn't matter the fact that I'm on exactly the same computer as my server is. It doesn't matter that I have the fastest consumer-grade CPU and the second fastest consumer-grade GPU. No, it still won't fucking load.
Play ball.
The only thing I could do better is put it on like a RAM disk, but it's on an NVMe drive, which is like, you shouldn't need anything more than that. Why does it not just instantly drop me into the server? No idea. Okay, so now we're getting... Oh, look at that. Now we're getting to what I was talking about before. Look how much it prefers the one all the way across. Now it's preferring this one because I'm so close to it, but look how close I have to be. You know where this is underground. Look how close I have to be for it to take over in terms of precedence. So now it's making me want to cap this one way more than any of the other ones. So let's go down here. And I'd say it's probably a good strategic decision from a bot perspective. Because that one isn't that much further than mid. In fact, it's like right next to mid. But it gives you a much greater benefit than if you cap that one. So it's worth the extra effort. Now this one is also taking me to the other side, because I did exaggerate it a fair bit. Because mid is really not getting much right now. I have to get pretty close to this one for it to understand that mid is important. And in an ideal scenario, I'd really prefer it to pick mid almost over the other one, so I might just readjust my logic. Because I think that you should always go for, my humble opinion, I would much rather go for mid before I'd get the ones further along, because this one gives you a pretty powerful benefit without having to take all this risk. And then these are more important than the ones that are over in your place are the least important. Sorry, in enemy territory are the least important. It's because you're a measly consumer or maybe just source. Yeah, source. Pretty much source. I've thought about upgrading to server grade hardware just for fun. But if you look at like the actual gaming performance of that hardware, it's not good. Because of course it's not meant for it. So I figure this is about as good as I'm going to get. For productivity, if I were doing things like building, if I were doing CPU-bound encoding, or if I was doing a lot of hammer mapping, then I would actually benefit from upgrading to like a server-type GPU or CPU, or even like a Threadripper or something. But if I got a Threadripper and I tried to game on it, I'd get worse performance than if I were on my Intel 8700. So, shrug. Anyway, so we want to change the priority order here. So before I was using sort of this coincidence that the buff scaler happened to be going in about the same, I was kind of increasing it in the same way that it was defined. So now I can't, that was just a coincidence. I shouldn't have depended on that to begin with. So we're going to make it more explicit. So we're going to do a switch, I think. Switch buff. And case buff type equal buff type half. And we say the buff scaler is, well, first we're going to define this as int buff scaler is 1. So that's the default case. Maybe we can put a default case in the case statement. Screw it. Also, cases look weird in Source1. I'd rather have a reference up. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm so confused. I don't understand anything that he is saying. I'm just kind of going on about like server hardware at this point. Right now, what I'm working on is I'm working on getting bots, TF bots, to prefer the spawn points that are in enemy that are in friendly territory to the ones that are in enemy territory. That's what I'm working on right now. I'm just currently doing that in a very roundabout sort of way, which you've come in the middle of. But what I was complaining about earlier, which was what started me on my rant about server grade hardware, was I really wish that TF2 would come up quicker, despite the fact that I have a really fast computer. It still takes a long time to actually join a server, which is kind of annoying. So in this case, the scale would be 2, and otherwise, in the case where it's buff type underscore full, then the buff scaler, sorry, this should be 3 and this should be 2. So we're going to prefer to find, yes, this makes sense to me. We're going to prefer spawn points that are in the middle between enemy and friendly territory to the ones that are strictly in enemy territory, or in friendly territory. So we don't need to do int again because we've already defined that. We're just going to, actually we don't need to define it again at all. We just do a default case in here. So if nothing else was matched, then we just say buff scaler is 1. So anyway, what's up, Tigerish? Tigerish? I never know how to pronounce your name. Does it have a semicolon at the end? Of course not. Why would it? Let's try it. See if we can get the HUD to prefer the spawn points that are in the middle instead of the ones that are just closest. But yeah, I do like the, at what point do you just buy a server rack? The answer is when I have a house. I will probably have a server room. Because I'm a nerd. Invalid subscript, not an array or too many subscripts. Buff type half. Yeah, I knew switch statements are weird in this language. I guess it doesn't require parentheses when you're just checking the value. So let's just not have those then. And it also needs colons. Forgot about that. All right. My name is pronounced tiger, as in the animal ish. Yes, but is it tigerish or tiger-ish? It's the difference between tigerish would be 2 syllables, and then tigerish would be 3. So are you a 2-syllable guy or a 3-syllable guy? That's my question for you. Wow, Bean Bean, you should have prefixed that with a Tigger warning. Build. Okay, it built. Why did you ban Cozy Camper but not the conch? What are you on? It's a fantastic question. Because I would like some of whatever you're currently on. I think I just crashed. Almost crashed, TF. Currently in our Discord, Justin is saying, anyone ever noticed that CTF2 bind is a surprisingly balanced map? You're a 3-syllable type of guy. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Tigerish. Is there a character for something called Tigerish? Where am I getting that from? It sounds familiar. Is that like a Kung Fu Panda character?
3, 2, 1. Fight to the death.
Alright, so now it should be sending me to that point. Like, nobody's business. Let's take a look at the arrow. It is indeed sending me to that point like nobody's business. I will prefer this point, but only when I'm like right up against it. Maybe I should turn down the stickiness a teeny amount. But I like this in general. And I'm only going to apply it to robots anyway, so like who cares? Who cares if it's a bit exaggerated? I like this though, I like this a lot. Alright, let's make it law. By which I mean actually commit the stupid thing. And let's only do it if you're a bot. So the only thing that's different here is that if you're a bot, I'm not going to have the distance. So all we do here is say if is, oh, magnifying. Tigers is a Kung Fu Panda character? Oh, awesome. I love Kung Fu Panda. Somewhere in here is client bot. I think it is anyway. Bot. Just bot. Is something that says like is real client or something. I used to have to care about this so much more when I was doing No Man's Land, because of course the rules for bots and humans were completely different. Get client, is client replay, is client observer, is client in game, is fake client, that's what it is. I mean literally, why would it be called that? Because it's technically a fake client, Chris. Why would it be anything else? Yeah, but it's dumb. It should be bot. It's not. I'm not blaming source bot. I'm blaming source. Flag owner. So basically, if you're a bot, we're going to do the distance thing. So get amend, and we're going to say send bots to spawn points relative to their buff power. Oh yeah, does I'm also going to reword that because I don't like that as much. Commit reword. Not send bots. Bots prefer spawn points relative. Yeah. There we go. Push it up. And I think this is what I'm going to call it good. I'm going to test it out with bots just temporarily, just for fun, really, more than anything else. And then we'll go from that break and we'll move it on to probably what I'm going to tackle is that when you charge a spawn point, you lose the collectibles on the top. I'm going to try to tackle that one. I think I have a strategy. It's going to be pretty weird. It is based on some Source Engine stuff that I have not confirmed works, but we're going to try it. There is a Kung Fu Panda character called Tigress. Too many jokes. To keep the haters out, no fake bitches. I just realized I spent 4 hours adding stuff to a Wikia for a show that was canceled 5 years ago. That sounds like you're a wiki editor then. I actually used to be part of a wiki back in the day. That was when I was even sadder than I am now. Unbelievably, I know. So let's go ahead and turn off the magnifier. Jump back in. Well, waiting for the server to restart. I think what I'm going to do is start up a bot game, walk away for a minute, grab a water, come back, and remember to throw out my iced tea because it's disgusting. For no reason. But yeah, this is a lot more fun than just sitting here quietly and attempting to fix all these issues. So I enjoy this, definitely. So, I suppose I haven't asked which Wikia and which show. I can't think of anything important that was canceled 5 years ago. Okay, let's try this out. We're going to do a full bot game. Some Archon TF bot add 16. Just like that, we've got bots.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Let's see if they tend to prefer coming into each other's territory. I love how the engineers all build at spawn. They're basically all Atlases. Yeah, I know they actually don't know anything about the middle point. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to fix that, but I'm also not sure how much I care. Well, somebody capped the mid one, which is good that they capped the mid one first. I like how I missed that, despite it being the entire reason for me doing this. So, who's got the core? Rage with. Oh, look at that, they're fighting over the mid one. I wonder if that's all they're going to do, which is extremely possible. Look, he's also going to go for mid. Problem is, that's technically the optimal strategy. Even if they do keep capping over the mid one. I personally think that's one of the best things you can do when you're playing the game. Yeah, now he's going to suddenly decide to go somewhere else. Bot pathing is not the brilliantest thing in the world, as you can probably see. He didn't cap that one despite it being really close, so I probably want to turn down that exaggeration a little bit. I think it would have been better if you'd gone for that one instead of going directly for mid every single time. Limitless, never heard of it. Guess it did have a limit though, because it was cancelled. Let me just turn this down from 8 to 4. I think that 4 is a little bit too exaggerated. I mean 8's a little bit too exaggerated. Do it again. And I swear this is going to be the last test before I move on to something more relevant. Atlas is the OG bot, but you guys trained him, so, like, it's your fault. You guys were like, oh, come build and spawn. We're going to build a wall. That was you. I don't mean you specifically, I mean you as a community. Kind of sad that the stream is on such a delay that I just got a badump tis from my my shitty pun that I made like 2 minutes ago. I wonder what my battery's doing. I've got my laptop up to monitor the stream, which means I'm doing 15 megabit up and 15 megabit back down again, which is smart. But it's kind of sort of on battery power. It's technically plugged into my main computer, but it's not giving it enough charge to keep it alive. But it seems to be doing all right, 89%. I'm good with that. But yeah, if I can get these bots working even just a little bit, like decently, that opens up more possibilities for me, even if we don't end up using them for the server. One of my problems is that I've wanted to do update videos to say, hey, look at these new features in AR. And it's much easier to do that, I think, that if you're spectating everybody than if you were just doing it like as a single player experience. I think it's just more fun to do it this way, and I would feel bad about going into a playtest and just going into spectate the whole time, because frankly, on top of it just being weird and antisocial, I made the game mode because I made something I wanted to play, and not being able to play the thing that I made would suck. So if I'm able to do it just as like a bot mode and advertise new features using bots, I'd be over the moon. I must ask, who thought of making Arena but you respawn? That would be Kilo, who came up with the original idea, by far. Oh look, they're fighting over mid again. It's kind of hilarious. I just want to make sure that when they get close to another point that they don't just immediately go for the wrong point. You'd think that one of them would like defend or something. Kilo came up with the original one because we were going around different Arena servers. Because I actually had a fascination with Arena, to be honest. I thought of it as like a harder version of Team Fortress 2, like normal TF2. Somebody capped that one. That's a good sign. There we go. Yeah, they're still fighting over mid. Yeah, so Kilo, we were going around Arena servers, but it annoyed the crap out of me that everybody kind of had their own personal, like house rules for Arena. Did not like that at all. Like the fact that you couldn't go for mid despite the fact that the last guy was just camping around somewhere, or servers that disable camping entirely, annoyed the shit out of me. We actually went like a medic something combo and just started capping mid. That was back when the quick fix could actually cap points, so we were like doing that. We constantly called it like, I think we called ourselves it's cappening or something. I did cap that one. It's just mid, they're really fighting over mid a lot. I think that makes for less interesting footage than if they fought over the... Wait, what am I talking about? They all have points. I'm losing my mind, apparently. They're fighting over mid because it's the only thing that's left. Anyway. It's kind of hilarious. So, then it was like, okay, what if the point actually did something, but it wasn't an instant win, because instant wins aren't very satisfying. Well, okay. Why don't we make it respawn the other team, like your whole team? That's like the most obvious thing. So we made that, and then kind of from there we just had all sorts of different issues, like, okay, great, except that whoever's got control of the point can just keep control of the point. What if you get empty caps? What if you cap twice? You know, things like that. I mean, the original version of the game mode, you could just, you know, what I don't like about this is they're not being aggressive enough, so I think I'm going to have to adjust it a bit. Let me go ahead and fix that while I'm talking. It was like, okay, so basically there's all these other issues, right? And then people came up with suggestions like, okay, why don't you just give them a mini point debuff or whatever they call it, you know, the mini crit debuff when you're on the point, and we tried that out, and I don't know, I never really liked that as a solution. First time I played Arena, I immediately had a fascination with it. Yes, same. One thing that also kind of came up was that as soon as you introduce respawning into Arena at all, even through a very risky maneuver like we did, it immediately stops feeling like normal Arena. So for a while I was really afraid, and I was like, how do I bring the Arena feeling back into it? And then now I realize, like, there's no point doing that. Like, Arena's Arena, it's never going to get any better or any worse. It's really kind of not super fun. I mean, it's fun in a way because you get to just do pure DM, but TF2's never been about pure DM. So coming up with alternative, like, objective-based ways to respawn your team was really, like, the key, I think, in making this any good. Because, I mean, if you're in Arena mode and you decide to play, like, I don't know, Pyro or something, you're just gonna die. Like, TF2 used to be balanced, or Arena mode used to be balanced around the idea that, like, it was harder to put yourself out when you're on fire because there aren't that many health packs, but 2018 TF2, there's a million ways to negate fire. You know, if you're going to play Engineer, you know, oftentimes you end up the person in the corner that's just gonna die. You know, like you'll give dispensers and stuff for your team and do your best, but you're often the last one, and then you're just gonna die. Like, there's nothing else to do. So I really like the fact that we've got, like, basically things to do in this game. It made you feel accomplished with every kill. Yeah. That's one thing that I wanted to keep in the mode, is like, every time that you get a kill, it really, really matters. Even though there's all sorts of different ways that you can undo what a kill did, it is the primary objective still. Every time you get a kill, you are doing better than the other team. Alright, let's see what it does now. I just realized this might have had absolutely no effect because they're going to keep going back to mid anyway. Has the same feel in a way, but it's kind of diluted. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It'll never be as strong as it is in Arena. Arena is something that's unique. But in the same way that Arena is unique, I also think that it doesn't work in TF2. Like, you can play it, it just doesn't feel like TF2. This feels a lot more like TF2. Alright, so this is, I think, making them go for slightly more risky maneuvers. Oh yeah, of course, they'll always try to cap over the other ones first. So, blue team here, it says blue team, right? They did manage to get a base down here. Perfect. Red team has managed to get no bases yet, I don't think. Oh no, the blue team also got one here. Don't know how that ended up happening. Probably because it was so close, that's why. That's a very human thing to do. That's very much like what the humans who play the game would do. Now he goes for mid. Yes. I think that this is playing pretty decently. Now where's he going to go? He's going to be super aggressive and go to the other side, isn't he? Yep, that's exactly what he's doing. And the intent behind that is to get the bots to cross each other's paths more often, which is sort of the intent of buffing the bases that are further away in normal AR. I want there to be a reason to cross an enemy territory and back. But yeah, I kind of like it as just a deathmatch sort of way. I think that Arena would work really well in a I mean, what am I saying? Of course it works really well in non-class based shooters. There's been plenty of those that have that kind of mode, but I don't think it works very well in TF2. Alright, I like how that played. I like how that played a lot. I'm going to bring up Nucleus for fun. And then I'm going to declare this good and move on to something else. But I really like this as background material for some future videos. I mean, this is awesome. And if I can do it to populate the server when there's not a lot of people around and people don't hate it, I mean, that'd be great. What the hell's this guy doing? Oh, he's building. Lol. I love how they just build and spawn because there's no funk no builds anymore. So I'll very happily just build and spawn. This mid is actually really nice to hold, this Nucleus mid, so I wonder if they're going to go for it first or if they're going to go the opposite end first. Oh no, actually this one's so close it overrode the algorithm. Perfect. It's been cool talking to you, Auk, but I'm going. Have a good one. I will see you around, hopefully in some playtests, maybe today. Yeah, I'm really liking this a lot. Basically, we straight up have bots playing AR. Done. Accomplished. Somebody must be going for mid next. That's why when I say mid, I'm not referring to the point. Okay, so he's got... Great, a heavy's got intel. So he must be going for the middle one now. Perfect. This is precisely what I wanted. Love it! Yeah, we've got bots playing AR. I am very, very hype about that. Okay. I'm going to go grab a water, and I will start on the next topic. But I'm going to leave this up while I'm grabbing a water. Alright, back. I like how the server, my own server, kicks me due to inactivity. At some point I gotta look at the idle problems too, but they look pretty complicated, so we're not tackling that today. Let's go ahead and tackle the pickup on point capture problem. Let's go do that. So somewhere in here is the spawn point capture, spawn base capture function. So I think it's where I set ownership. Set owner or something. Yeah, I'll get the magnifying glass up in a sec. Spawn base activate or something like that. I don't know. There's a way that I can look at all the functions at once, and I forget how to do that in Emacs. I'm probably not going to remember right now either. Let's see. It's not set owner. Cap area set owner, cap point set owner. Might be activate. Spawn base activate. There it is. Well, it's not the definition of it, but we're closer. Okay, spawn base activate. Base and team. So we set the value to team. Spawn base owner. Team base. Spawn base is find value base equals team. Why do I have an array for that? Don't know. I guess we'll come back to that. Oh, that's the thing that actually stores it between rounds. That's another bug we have to fix. Okay. Glow control. That's actually a broken entity that I need to email Valve about. Even though it works perfectly well, it actually does not work outside of the current visible leaf. So you set glow control on something, you walk behind a wall and it stops glowing, unless you set... There's something I set somewhere for glow control. What do I call this? Int glow control. Vaguely curious what I did. Int glow control, tf entity, glow, set value. I swear I do something here to fix it. Oh well, find it later. Set glow color, enable, blah blah blah. So somewhere in here I'm removing all of the stuff. And by stuff I mean pickups. There it is. Find and disable any nearby drops. They are now redundant. So for every single pickup, we say find by class name, pickup map pickups. If getInt prop, basically if this is inside of a map, so it's going to auto materialize over time. If it was a dropped pickup, we won't touch it. And the distance between the pickup and dispenser is less than 128. Then we perform a disable. So actually we don't delete the entity, we just disable it from ever respawning. However, I'd like to give that to whoever did the capture, however times 2. By the time we get into this function, I don't know who did the capture. I'm just saying set this to this. So we need to add a new parameter. The parameter will be the entity ID of the person who captured it. And that's going to be interesting to find. I don't know if I can find that based on a flag capture. And then what we're going to do is we're going to magically make the game think that they touched every single one of the pickups. That's going to be the plan. I think. I'm still thinking it through. Well, we certainly need the person who capped it, so let's go to the beginning of this massive obese function and add that in. Also, this should be down here. And we're going to be modifying this function, so I may as well fix the indentation, because otherwise my IDE is going to freak out. So base team, and then we're going to say int activator. Ha! It's actually kind of funny because activator is used in a bunch of places in the TF2 code. So that's funny, only two huge nerds. But it is the activator of the spawn base. And we'll set that to -1 by default if we can't find one. Because there may be times where the spawn base is activated and it's not activated by... Oh, thank God there's an activator. Okay. Might not be activated by the player. It might be like at the beginning of a round and we're just setting it back to where it was in the previous round. So we do have a caller, an activator, and a delay. The question is whether or not that activator or that caller are actually relevant to what we want to do. Because the activator of the capture may be considered the flag because Valve hates me. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do some debug here before I start getting myself into trouble. On capture called, the caller will be some integer and the activator will be some integer. And we're going to put those into the string. And we're going to put a big ol' to do remove because, well, it's a debug message. And we don't want that to stay in there. I could look up what oh god. Just made a terrible mistake, hang on. Got myself into a git problem. I accidentally added that to the previous commit. I don't want to do that. That'd be bad. Git. I could probably just... There's a way to get around this and I can't remember what it is. Damn, I feel like an idiot. I think I have to do a reset hard to a commit previous, then do a git pull, bring back up to where that commit actually is. So I look at that and I say bots prefer spawn points relative to their buff power, we're fine. Then a git reset soft to the commit that I screwed up. Unmerged 5A62. Damn, I am good. Alright. That should just be the changes from here. Yeah, it's a lot of indentation, but there we go. Okay, cool. Fix that. So stage changes are correct. So now we're committing it to a new commit, which is the end result of this commit is going to be give pickups to spawn point activators or something. Why is that got 2 commits? It shouldn't have 2 commits. It should have 1. I did a poll and everything. Maybe I spoke too soon. Are you going through and changing all your indentation? Fantastic question. So, when I started working in SourceSpawn, I had absolutely no interest in doing anything in a consistent way. So I just didn't. I think I did 2 spaces because I was programming in Ruby at the time, and 2 spaces just seemed logical to me. I wasn't following any C-style guides. I was just programming to get it done. And now I'm at the point where I wanted to decide on some standards and follow some popular standards as much as I can to make the code easier to read and easier to maintain, because I want to get this code base cleaned up to the point where like other people can learn from it and maybe even modify it themselves. So part of that is following basic C standards like 4 spaces and not 2, and to use the curly after the function definition instead of as part of it, and things like that. So if I don't do that, since I've already fixed up my IDE to use all the correct indentation and spacing for C mode, because that's what this mode is based on, is C mode. It now wants to do everything in 4 spaces, and if I don't just quickly fix it, then I'll have code that's like indented weirdly because I didn't make it consistent. But long story short, I just want to start having standards and following standards. And I'd love to know why the fuck these commits are different. Bot to reverse spawn points relative to their butt. Okay, so now let's commit B0F. That's fine. Oh, because it did a reset. Can I do a cherry pick? Oh, of course, because I already made that commit. Right, sorry, up to date. You're currently cherry picking 193E. Commit. Previous cherry pick is now empty, possibly due to conflict resolution. Really? Did I really screw this up? BOCF. Yeah, this is on game frame. I fixed all that up. Didn't do anything else. So that commit's right. Why can I not do a git reset? Why can't I do a cherry pick? What is this commit? Nothing, there's no difference. Cool. I really seem to have screwed myself here. This is what happens when you amend to a commit that you didn't want to amend to. Of course, this is what happened when I'm streaming. There's a way to get out of here, but I can't remember what it is. Apparently I don't have one correct commit anywhere, which is the thing that's really screwing me up. Although according to this I do. I have commit 193E supposedly is right. And yet, here we are, telling me that 193E and head are exactly the same. Even though that makes no sense. Git commit amend. Oh shit. No, that's right. Did I push that? Git commit amend is B0C. I don't think that should have changed anything in the spawn points. Oh, yeah, of course. Everything's gonna spawn in it, isn't it? Fuck, that's both of them. So git ref log is like the meta history instead of the history of just your repository of what's currently pushed up. It's the history of everything you've ever done to your repository. I think that this is the correct one, A47. Let's take a look at that guy. I don't know, this is really annoying. So what it's telling me is that whatever I've already pushed up has the wrong thing in it. The wrong code. Combination of both of these. So I think it's, whoops, let's not screw this up further. I think it's this commit that I need. So no, that's right. I'm gonna cheat and use the GUI. Look at the development branch. This is all touching read and respawn.sp. That's also touching spawn base. Oh, of course, because I changed the buff type function. That's what I was. That is the right commit. Everything's fine. I just need to get my new changes up on the right thing. So I did that. I did a git commit amend, and then this is the amend commit that was a mistake. 5A, whatever this is. So git reset soft. What does git reset soft do again? Mixed hard merge keep. Does not touch the index file or the working tree at all. That's not what I want. Resets the index, but not the working tree. That's what I want. So if I do a git reset dash mix to this commit, that should have all the changes that are relevant that I want in a separate commit. Let's try that. Gotta move my mouse. Reset mixed. Commit hash. That worked. That was exactly what I needed to do. So stage that, commit that, and we're gonna say whatever the hell I was doing. Give fire touch. Give spawn point capturers. Wow. Capture. give give the spawn point captures the pickups removed on capture. It's actually even clearer than I was saying before. Just do a force push, goddamn, I don't give a fuck. Unless I screwed this one up. The fact that I am changing up my... Fuck, that's wrong! Why are you wrong? Don't be wrong. This is the wrong commit. It's killing me. I just want to get over this and get back to the stupid code. So 5A6 was wrong. I should have known that. Git reset hard BO whatever the crap it was. Thank God for the metadata log. BOC. Git reset hard BOC. Fuck you. BOC FOE. There we go. Git push dash F. GOGS. In other words, force push that, get that back up to the server the way it should have been in the first place. So now we have quote unquote lost the other commit F356. Then we do a reset soft, or mixed. 5A, that was the wrong one anyway. Get reset mixed. God above. Git commit F3, 5, this guy. Git reset, or actually git cherry pick at this point because it's a full commit. This should work. Cherry pick is just like move the commit over there, I don't care. You're currently checking picking commit, blah blah blah, nothing to commit, working tree green. Fuck you. Abort it then. God above. What is wrong with me? I can't remember how to do git. That should be the right command. BOCF. It doesn't have anything extra in it. I was just looking at that in GOGS just to be like super safety sure. Even though a real programmer wouldn't need to look at a GUI to confirm these sorts of things. Right, I'm gonna respawn. It's changed. But if I look in the spawn base.inc, the only thing I changed was above type. So that commit's fine. I don't want to ever overwrite that commit ever again. Because it's fine. So the one that I need to overwrite is... the one I need to grab is the one that I did in the ref log. I need... 193, this one. This commit is what I need. Whenever I do a reset, it's actually trying to move me back in time. Which I guess makes sense. That's just really annoying. Git reset only. Working tree is a copy of the current files. I tend to use git checkout to card those exchanges from working directory. You should also do this and do that. I don't want to lose this work and I don't want to redo it. I just want to just... Why won't you just let me cherry pick the stupid commit? Oh god, nano. How do you even work with that? There's two commits. One of them is correct, the other one isn't. Let's take a look at them. I don't even know how we got there. Why is it trying to overwrite the stupid previous commit? Don't do that. Okay. Once again, no, don't merge anything. Keep moving backwards, keep moving backwards. Do a pull. Okay, now we're up to date with what's currently in the server. So maybe I'm a naive question, but are you the only one who codes for AR? I am the only one who codes for AR, manages the servers for AR, runs the servers for AR, pays for them, does any of the graphic design, SFM work, basically everything. Yeah, it's me. Just me. Super fun. Highly recommend it. Man, what the fuck am I doing wrong? is it changing the history when I cherry pick it? It makes no sense. Just want the commit and only the changes from that commit. Don't want anything else. I just want those changes. Damn son, help it's not too overwhelming. It's a hobby, you know. If I had actual pressure or something I had to do, or something of that nature, like if it was like, oh, you have to do this because of XYZ reason, then it wouldn't be very fun. It would be overwhelming. It's just something I get around to, you know, a couple times a week, add on to it. Probably the biggest annoyance about it, there's two things that really annoy me about it. One of them is I have no one to ask questions to. So the only thing I can do pretty much is Google. And the other thing that annoys me is there's no, like, I keep looking to other people to make media about it. Like whether it's like forum posts or videos or something like that. Try and not necessarily sell the mode to other people, but at least to document kind of like what's going on. And very rarely does that ever happen. So it's like another responsibility I'm going to have to take on myself, which kind of sucks. If you see what I mean by that. But in general, it's just fun. Be more fun if I could remember how Git works. I don't know why a cherry pick isn't working. That in particular is very, very, very strange to me. Why can I not just cherry pick the changes from this commit? Why not? Why not? This is absolutely the right commit. Everything here is exactly what I want. Why is cherry pick not working? Your branch is currently up to date with GOG's devel. You are currently cherry picking commit F3 blah blah blah. Nothing to commit. The previous cherry pick is now empty, possibly due to conflict resolution. If you wish to commit it anyway, use git commit allow empty, otherwise use git reset. Git reset. Git log. It's not there. Not only is it not there, no, it didn't do anything. It just straight up did not do a damn thing. I get that, quite frankly, this game mode should be as popular as, say, Versus Saxton Hale or Dodgeball or any other community modes. Well, I don't know about should be, but I'm certainly very interested in knowing how they got to where they are. Particular VSH or Dodgeball. I know there are game modes like the hide and seek game mode, Prop Hunt, that existed in other games, and I can see why like some of that kind of bled over into TF2 because they were popular elsewhere, but I don't know how people get the word out about any of these things. Even things like VSH, I don't think anybody, I think like one time started like one video on VSH, but somehow that just kind of carried its own momentum. And Dodgeball, I have no idea how Dodgeball got popular. I mean, I'm not saying that like it's a bad thing. I love Dodgeball. It's hilarious. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm just wondering like, how the hell did anyone popularize it? Popularize it? I don't know how they did it. I can't find like some epic video about Dodgeball servers. So I don't know how to make this discoverable, basically. That's the problem. If somebody has any ideas about that don't involve me like doing something incredibly stupid, or I don't know. By that I mean like, oh, just join XYZ server network that's probably just going to die tomorrow. Like, if somebody had an idea beyond that, I'd be very interested to know. But as it is, there doesn't seem to be a very good way of communicating news about TF2 anywhere. Reddit's TF2 forum is more or less completely memes. And I'm saying that as unironically as I can muster when you use the word memes in a sentence. But they have no interest in discussion whatsoever. The Steam forums are a complete crapshoot. I don't know where else to talk about it or bring it up or try to get more feedback. Don't know. The only other thing that I haven't done yet is talk to any TF tubers about it to try and get some coverage or something like that, which I think is what I'm going to do when I'm a little bit further along and things are a little bit less buggy than they are even now. But I don't, that's just a crapshoot too. Send an email out and see if somebody notices it. At least for me, I always hated arena type modes. I hate dying and you just got to sit and wait to play a game. So this mode is pretty damn perfect in my eye. Lol. Well, you do have to wait an awful long time, depending on the state of the game. So it's not entirely, it's not entirely wait free, especially in large player counts. But it's closer in my mind to team deathmatch than it is arena mode. It's just that instead of being strictly frag points, you can also unfrag people. So it's interesting. I'd like to grow the community a bit organically, but I just don't know where to sort of put things out there and where to get, not like a big burst of attention, because then that brings its own problems, but just like the discoverability of it. I don't know how to improve that. And I'm sitting here talking about community management, trying really hard with the other core currently in my brain to figure out why I can't cherry pick a fucking commit. Because I'm pretty sure you're supposed to just be able to do that. Nothing to commit, working tree clean. And yet it clearly has things in that commit. Clearly has things in that commit. Right? Because if I look here, this is not... Revert buffer, yes. Clearly doesn't have any of the changes that I've made. So... And then if I look at the actual, what is the commit doing? So if I do the git diff here, clearly has all the changes that I needed. So, only other thing I can do, make it a patch. I'm not watching a video on patch files, I just need the documentation. It's probably a better way of doing this, but boy do I not know. So basically throwing all the changes into a file that I'm just going to apply because this is getting stupid. Then we just do a git apply. Patch failed. Line 431 is a blank fucking, oh no, it's on line 31 of the file. What am I talking about? I just realized it's all negative. No, stop that. Go away. Stop it. Oh, this one's reverting back. Oh, this is the wrong commit. Okay. Okay, I follow that. Okay, I like that. That's why it doesn't work. It's the wrong commit. So what's the commit before it? Can I just cherry pick a relative commit? Oh my god. I got out of it. No, let's not do a diff here. Let's do a diff here. For some reason it's called the wrong fucking thing, but that's fine. We can just do a commit reword and use whatever wording I used last time. I don't know. Get reflog. Give pickups to spawn point activators. Give pickups to... Push it up. Done. Everything here is correct. Got the 2D to remove. We've got the... probably done a whole bunch of builds in the background while we were fucking with that. And now we get to check the debug. Gonna cancel that build. Don't know what that was. So, anyway, while I wait for this to build, now that I finally crawled myself out of that hole, which is one of the dangers of live development, is getting yourself into a hole you really should know how to get out of. And once again, I failed to check my assumptions, which is almost always how you get stuck when solving problems in IT. The assumption I made was that I was on the commit that was fixing it. Actually, I was on the commit that was breaking it. So of course I couldn't cherry pick that. That would have been an empty commit. I was going from broken state back to broken state. The commit before that was the commit that was doing it into the correct state. Anyway, now that I'm done with that, yeah, like, I don't know how people find things. Are they just checking the server browser? I mean, another one that I would like to get into is teamwork.tf. They seem like pretty cool. community. They got a community quick play. You can pick one of the 8 million community game modes. And look at this, by the way. Like, every single one of these has got hundreds of people playing. And I want to be very clear here that when I'm being like surprised by this sort of thing, it's not because any of these game modes are bad. I mean, they're super fun, a lot of them. Like, I have no opinion. A lot of them I think are super fun, and a lot more I have absolutely no opinion about because I've never played. It is not me saying like, oh man, how did Death Run get 413 people and I didn't? Like, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like, how did they get out there enough that there are now 413 people playing it? I can't even get 413 people to try my game mode and then subsequently hate it. How'd that work? TF2ware, 33. How obscure can you get? So, anybody's got ideas. I mean, I guess Fort Wars 4, that's kind of like, that's where I'm at right now. But even then, my server's empty and they got 4, so. Let's go see how Arena Respawn's working. I should really make this into a alias. I feel so much better now that I know my repository is not fucked. So let's try and... Oh right, so the whole point of this is that I'm going to watch the logs and see the debug message that I've made. So let's bring this up to the front. I use Aquasnap, by the way, to do these sorts of window manipulations where like it'll stay pinned to the front even though I'm playing a game. Really handy utility, free for personal use. Just throwing it out there. Not a sponsorship. Nobody gives a fuck about that kind of thing. Alright, so I grabbed this. Okay, yes, now this is acting normally, by the way, so it's not doing the bot logic, which is good, which is what I wanted. Never verified that was the case, but yeah, we should see. Fuck, that's really bad. Alright, so the result that we got from that, hope you like watching me be stuck on things, because this is going to be another one, is that we got both the caller entity and the activator entity's ID 276. This sucks, because anything that is a player entity is 32 and below. So actually each player slot has its own entity. So from 1 to 0 is the world entity, which I don't even know what that means, and 1 to 32 is the players. So instead of the player, we got the flag. The problem is figuring out who it was that captured the flag. Because by the time that this event triggers, if I'm not mistaken, the flag is already considered to have been removed from the person's back. So there is no H owner entity. This is something that's fired after that. So now we get to have some fun and figure out how we can know who captured it. So for instance, maybe I shouldn't be listening to entity events. This is an on capture event, by the way. So if I do on capture, it's actually listening to these two outputs specifically from the capture zone entity. Now, there's another way I could be listening to this instead of going to the entity directly. Although going to the entity directly is really effing handy, and I'd like to keep doing that. I'm probably not going to be able to, because there's also an event list. So these are the server events that get communicated to the client. One of them is, of course, a capture of... apparently it's a fake capture. One of these is going to be a capture of a flag. CTF flag captured. Oh my god, it doesn't even tell you who did it. Holy crap. Alright. So not even the game event tells you who performed the capture. Also, my stream is dead on my computer, so I'm wondering whether or not that's dead on the internet too, or if YouTube's just being slow. So, like, if you can hear this, type something. I'm just gonna keep going anyway. So, there must be some event that tells you who captured the intelligence because it shows up in your kill feed. And the only way that information would get to your kill feed is if it was a server event. So there must be something. Source mod. TF2 get player capture flag. Oh good, you can hear me. Awesome. Because I can't see my own stream, which is pretty funny. Let's disable the flag. It's not what I care about. I'm sure someone else has got these things somewhere in one of their plugins. Unapprover regenerates a player when they capture the intelligence. Okay. Yes. Strong yes. This is what I want. Oh, apparently this was a part of Quake or something. So somewhere this person must be determining who captured the flag. So this is pretty cool, by the way. Feature of Emacs. One of the reasons why Emacs is a Swiss Army knife. I can actually open up the browser inside of Emacs. Or sorry, I can paste the link to the plugin directly into Emacs, and it will show up as if it were local on the system. So I can just do source spawn mode, and suddenly I've got all my nice syntax highlighting as if it were just a file I was editing locally. Thanks, Emacs, Themacs. So, how do they determine team play flag event? Oh, there is something. Okay. There is something. Shouldn't have closed that tab. It's another thing I'm going to say fairly often. So we're going to have to completely change how we do the logic for spawn points. Oh, right. Okay. I remember why I couldn't do this now. Wrap your head around this one. So this event tells me who, well, let's say that we're just doing a capture here, right? Because this actually handles all sorts of flag events. It tells me who captured it. I don't understand what carrier is, but never mind that. The event type will be captured, whether or not the flag was home, and which team was happening. One thing this does not tell me, and this is quite important, is which spawn points it actually triggered the event for. That's why I was doing it on a per entity basis to begin with. Well, so I can have, this is like fucking, what's it called? Not Schrodinger's cat. It's like the, it's like the, what is that thing where it's like you can't know the position and the momentum of a particle at the same time? It's that thing. I can either know who captured it, but not where they captured it, so I won't know which spawn point to activate, or I'll know where it was captured, but I don't know who captured it. There's a way around this. It's going to suck. Before I go for the complicated and annoying way, let's verify that by the time that this event triggers, wherever the hell it might be, on capture. Yeah, spawn base on capture. What's wrong with that? Ah, give me my search. So by the time this event triggers, my assumption is that the flag will already have been removed from the person's back. You know, I'm kind of taking liberties with exactly what's happening here, but it's effectively what's going on. So, question is that true? Can I know who it was based on looking at the flags and seeing who owned them at the time? I don't think so, but if I don't check this and it ends up being that simple, then I'm going to really kick myself. So if client has flag, I don't care about that. I don't know if the flag has a client, so to speak. So let's figure that out. Int client equals get ent prop ent. So get an entity property of another entity. It's going to be caller because it's the flag. Prop send m underscore h owner entity. There it is. And I am willing to bet that this is not going, this is going to give me a -1, i.e. there is no client. But I gotta verify that before I keep going, because this could be a really simple solution and I just don't know it yet. This time I do want to do a force push. There we go. So the way that we're going to do it if this isn't going to work, which is what I think is going to happen, since it's not going to work, is that upon the flag being picked up, I'm going to set a variable to remember who picked up the flag, because that will fire an event. And I will just treat whoever picked up the flag last as the owner of the flag. And I will just use that variable. And in theory, you have to pick up the flag to do a capture, so every single time, I'll call it like last flag owner or something. So every single time that somebody picks up the flag, it'll reset that variable. It'll be alright. It's going to be annoying. It's going to be another global variable for me to throw into a sea of global variables, but it'll function. And then after that, I'll know who captured the flag, and then I have to do the thing that's kind of a big question mark, which is, can I fire a touch event from a player to each of the collectibles before they disappear? Don't know. AR in a nutshell. So let me bring my panel back up here so we can check the logs, and it'll either tell me, hey, you're client -1, or it will tell me that I'm actually client 1, which is what I am.
Play ball.
What was it? Was there a bunch of exceptions? No. It's telling me that I'd run the command, which surprisingly I already knew.
Let's waste them.
Now let's go cap. And this is why even like a simple bug fix takes me like a whole week to get around to doing. This has been, what? No, actually, I've been on this part almost an hour? God. Yep, client ID -1. Let me show you that my cynicism is indeed correct. So by the time on capture is called, where'd my taskbar go? Thanks. Client ID is already invalid. So we're just going to have to keep track of that ourselves. Woo, boy. What a bunch of fun. All right. So somewhere in here I've got a bunch of flag variables. Like a bunch. Flag owner. Oh yeah, because that's me getting it dynamically, which doesn't work here. Yay. It might be under the map overlay file. Somewhere in here are some flag variables. Flag targets, entity changes. I'm gonna need something else. Map overlay reset. Okay, so timer flags, reactor flags. I'll call it reactor flags. Because they're technically reactors. I guess that makes sense. Team reactors. Team reactors, that's what they're called. So how do I know when somebody picked it up? I think I'm already doing this somewhere. Should go find where team reactors is. So find here. Should probably be converted to a string map or a trie. Yeah, probably. But I don't think that would make things any better. Int. Let's call it like flag last owner. You'll notice that this is also not matching the same format as my previous code because I'm trying to transition towards camel case as well. It's kind of more C++-y. I'd like to get all of these aligned and maybe shorten them. I'm sure I'll get around to that. So, why did I say -2? God. Okay, so this is going to keep track of whoever picked up the flag last. Somewhere in here, I'm hooking the flag event. Oh god, I really hope I'm hooking the flag event. Team play round win, team play broadcast audio. Please tell me I'm hooking the flag event somewhere. Of course I'm not. Alright. hook event team play underscore flag underscore event on flag event. That's all you have to do. Now we get to go make a, you know, a function that'll listen to this particular event. Try to put it in a somewhat sensible spot on team audio. On condition added, on start touch cap area, on touch cap area. There's a lot of these I need to remove. This is when I was like putting in balance rules to prevent capture blocking on cheats changed. So public, it won't be a convar, will it? Do I have anything that doesn't have public action space? On give ammo, on remove ammo, on stock HUD notification, on team capture, on cap enabled, on trigger. Oh, this is where I was adding stuff. See, this has got like actual comments in it that explain what the fuck's going on. That's what I want more of. I want more of that in my code. Alright, so this one will be fired on team play flag event. Not useful for knowing which capture zone was involved, but useful for knowing was involved, which is why we're going to make a silly variable. Okay, public action on flag event, event. Can't remember how this looks. Const char name of the event, bool hide broadcast, which doesn't seem to do a goddamn thing, by the way. And now we get to handle it. So we need to get the client. So we say int client equals get event int, and we say event is passing the event back in. The integer that we need is player. Then we say if not is valid client. So if somebody disconnected or some other invalid state is happening, then we just do a return. Why are these all public actions? Shouldn't these be public? Yeah, like that. Just do a single return. Get out of the function. We're not going to do anything fun. Otherwise, we're going to set last flag. It was like flag last owner. Oh, I'm gonna have to figure out what the index is to client. So I have two flags on every map. I mean, that's not surprising if you played the game mode. One for red, one for blue, and I keep them in an array. So red is at 0 and blue is at 1. So all I need to do is get the team involved. This is where it gets confusing. Which team the flag belongs to. So remember, if it's a blue player, they're picking up the flag that belongs to the red team. So that should match my indices fine. I shouldn't have to convert that. I don't have to care about the opposite team. So we're going to go ahead and grab that team information. So int team equals get event int event team. And then we're going to say int index. So the index that we're working with, because remember, this is an array with only two things in it. The team number I'm going to get is either 2 or 3. You need to convert that to a 0 or a 1. So we're subtracting 2. And we say flag last owner of this particular index is client. Then we can go back to the spawn base where we get the on capture, where again we say, hey, which one is it? Now we're going to know which client. So we're going to say int client equals flag last owner. And then we need to get the correct index here. So let's see, am I doing that somewhere else? If string is equal to uncap team 1, then team is TF team red. Otherwise, blah, blah, blah. So that's the one that's telling me which team captured. So I probably do care about that. Or I could do it based on which flag I got. Probably that would be more accurate, technically speaking. So the flag entity is being stored in an array as well called team underscore reactors, because it really should be called team flags, but whatever. And in theory, I should be able to sort of do a reverse lookup by saying, hey, this is the entity ID of the flag. I should be able to find the index by iterating through the index of two things and discovering which index is relevant. So let's just do that because it's technically more correct than trying to figure out who capped and then reversing that. So we're just going to do a very quick one here. For int I equals 0, I is less than 2, I plus plus, just a simple iteration. If team reactors index is equal to the caller, then we say index is equal to I, break out of the loop. Oh, two things, which means I'm going to need to use curlies because there's no need to evaluate the other one otherwise. So int index is -1, and we only do this part if we found the index. So we say if index is greater than 0. Actually, it should be greater than or equal to 0 or greater than -1 because 0 is a perfectly valid index. This is comp sci shit after all. So if index is greater than -1, then we print this message. So this is just going to be a quick debug test. If we do get that message, then that means, and it's got the right client ID in it, then that means that this is a valid way of checking which client was responsible for the capture. And if that's the case, then we can move on to faking the touch event with all of the different pickups. Make sense? Awesome. Great. There will be a test. Oh, God. I miss being able to get up and walk. So I think I might only be able to fix one thing today, which is kind of hilariously bad, but whatever. I was really hoping to tackle the trickle charge, but I'm actually going to put all the trickle charges, so that's all the passive charges. Maybe I should call it passive charge, so it sounds less like tinkle. All the passively charging items, so all the banners, the Crikey meter, the Phlogistinator, I want them all to slowly passively charge over time, even when you're not doing damage. And that's actually such a generic sort of game rule manipulation, I guess. I will put that in a separate plugin. Doesn't need to have anything to do with Arena Respawn. It's just going to happen that Arena Respawn servers are going to have this plugin enabled. I've already done that before, actually. I did this Breath of Life. Very, very, very tiny source mod plugin that disables drowning damage while being healed. Here's the entirety of the plugin. It's very complicated. Hopefully you can follow. Oh, look, it's literally 43 lines long. All this is doing is at every frame it's saying, hey, if there's a valid client here, we're going to iterate through all the clients, or every single one where the player is alive and the client is valid. If they're being healed by anything, so if the number of healers is greater than 0, we don't care if it's a dispenser or a medic. If we did care about that, the code would be a lot more complicated. Then we just reset the air timer to... That's it. So every time that you enter the water, this variable m_air finished is set to the current time plus 7 seconds. So if you're still underwater by that time, then you start taking drowning damage. So all we do is we just reset the timer, and then we disable health recovery because that doesn't really work when you're underwater for a really long time, and suddenly you just start getting like random amounts of healing when you exit the water. It's kind of dumb. I mean, it already says you're already being healed at maybe a long time before we resurface, so we're just going to get rid of the restoration bullshit, which I don't even know why it's in the game. When you take drowning damage and you get back out, it gives you health back. Anyway, so this was a very simple plugin that we already put on the server, so I'm just going to do the exact same thing, call it like passive charge or trickle charge or something, and do the modification for chargeable weapons. So... But that's going to be a whole separate plugin, a whole separate build process, and there's no way I'm getting to that in the next, 57 minutes. So if we can make 1 or 2 small changes before the playtest, I'll be happy. Bump. Alright, so now all I need to do is get a debug message that tells me that I captured. That's all I need. Didn't study? Well... Maybe if you went to the recitations once in a while, you'd still learn something.
Play ball.
Alright. Womp. Oh, cool. Array index is out of bounds. We already have a problem. How did I screw that one up? So in other words, I'm trying to put something in an array that doesn't fit. On flag events, line 1075. Means I've made an assumption that isn't valid. Oh. Well, int index equals index to -2. Should be team -2. The only reason that even worked was because it was already being initialized to 0 when you create an integer. Duh! So it basically was trying to do like an array index of negative something. That was dumb. That's a really quick fix. Boom. Just reboot the fucking server. That's all I need. I'm sorry I screwed up a really dumb variable assignment. Please just hurry up. You know what's really fun? SFM. I've only started using that recently, and actually it's incredibly fun to work with. Especially if you're not afraid to get your hands dirty and make modifications to maps in Hammer directly. You can do that, you can pretty much get away with whatever you want. So, I've been doing a little bit of SFM work just to try and get some thumbnails out for. I mean, even the thumbnail of this stream is an SFM plus Photoshop thing going on. It's just fun. I mean, wondering if other. I don't know. Wonder if I should do some like posters or something. That looks like a hacking minigame. Lol. Yeah, it kind of does. It's the this is Concourse. It's my CI system. At least I think it's what you're reacting to based on the stream delay. It's designed to be really easy to see what the build process is, and more importantly, when it fails. It's not the most popular CI system ever, but I like it. Cool, it didn't actually... Fucking A, really? Did not actually print anything out, which means that it didn't get a valid index, which is very weird, actually. Not a failure case I was expecting. So let's go figure that out. Yeah, CI systems are build servers, basically. They just automatically build shit for you. Otherwise, I'd be sitting here trying to remember what exact commands I need to use to build, and then I would need to push everything to my server manually, which is exactly, by the way, how I used to develop things. And I'm very glad that those dark days are over. Because having everything set up to compile, having everything set up to then move it into the server, yeah, you can script it as much as you like, and technically all this is fancy scripting. But to have something that's 100% consistent and works based off of events that you've defined makes a world of difference. Iterating this quickly would never have been possible before I got that shit set up. So anyway, let's find out why I fucked up. Why did I fuck up? One possibility is that this was never set. So the client was never set. Don't think that's likely because the event would probably would have had the player. Also, I just realized I am doing this based on every single event type, which is not what I want to do. I want this to be specifically for pickup events. Yeah, that would have been good to do. That would have been definitely good. Yeah, that would have been good to do. Well, maybe that could actually be the problem. So we need... Oh god. Oh fuck, I just realized something else too. This is not an integer. This is a short. So, how do I even explain this one? So, when events are sent to your client, that involve more than one player or can involve more than one player, like a point capture. It doesn't actually give you the player in a directly. I think in this case it's only one player, but like on a capture it actually gives you an array of players that are represented as like a bunch of characters one after the other, so that way you can have like 5 people capping a point. Anyway, long story short, this is not what I thought it was. When you're working with events, they don't give you the players directly in terms of entity index, which would have been really handy. So I gotta go find another one where I've done this because I can't remember how to do this. Wah, wah. Alright, I think it's user ID, something like that. Get client of user ID, event user ID. I really hope that even though it says user ID instead of player, it's the same thing. Yeah, it's a short, so probably. The other thing I was thinking of is that I'm going to have to get, I don't know if event type is a, no, it's not a string, it's a short. A short is not a string, short is an integer. I'm going to have to figure out which flag event it is. I don't know if I have flag event stored anywhere. I'm going to come back to that. So let's just go back to this. Let's start by converting this correctly. This is not just a get event int, it's actually get client of user ID, get event int player. So of course it never would have actually done anything because it would have said, oh, the valid client check failed. So I'm not going to continue on this function. I'm never going to store anything. But another problem is that this is happening for every flag event. I only want it for pickups. So I need to check and see if the flag event enum is used anywhere. Because it's referencing a flag event enum and maybe it's in source mod. I don't know. Do I have source mod in here? Of course I do. No, it is not defined anywhere in source mod. Good job. GG. But I'll bet you it's defined in the Source 2007 leak. Most useful repository since sliced bread. Hey, look at that. So it's under tf shared defs.h. We're going to go ahead and grab that enum and steal the heck out of that. In the meantime, let's grab the integer. Oh my god, int event type equals get event int event type. So now we have an integer, but we don't know what it is. So if the event type is not equal to tf flag event probably pickup, or the client is not valid, exit out of this function right away. We don't care. So now we have to get this enum into my code. And I've already got about 1 million of these, so having another one won't make a difference. See, we have an enum for game type information, an enum for ammo type information, for ammo sources, which is kind of a guess based off of reverse engineering, HUD notification types. I mean, there's 1 million enums. I'm going to put this one up a little bit further because it's like cooler than the others. So we're going to call this one TF2 flag events. One word because we're cool. And now we get to go into the Source 2007 leak thing. Shut up. What are you doing? Stop doing things. So we go into Source Engine 2007 SE 2007 game shared TF shared definitions.h, so a header file. TF flag event, yepers, there it is. There's the enum of which I would want. So we're going to redefine that up here. Enum. Why are we indenting so far? It means that I've screwed something up and I don't know what. Jerk. Why are you indenting so far? It should be indented. I'm just going to run with it. See how far we get without it breaking. Oh. It should be underneath. TF flag event pickup is 1. Flag event capture is 2. And TF flag event dropped Yay, now we have the enumerable so we can check against the event to know which kind of flag event it is. And we are probably getting the client IDs correctly where we weren't before, so it's good enough for me to do another build. Womp. I was kind of hoping to get a break in between this and actually playing the game mode, but that might not happen. Whatever. Who cares? Should have done it yesterday. That would have given me a significant break. I just might not play for super long tonight, because I am going to be... I got other shit I want to do, frankly, other than just TF2 all day. Okay, it built, so obviously I didn't have a syntax problem. I don't know why Emacs thinks I have a syntax problem, but usually Emacs knows better than me, so I'm sure I do have one somewhere. How do I know semicolon? Probably need a semicolon. Yeah, these have semicolons. Why don't I have semicolons? I think source mod, well, it depends. If you define source mod, if you force source mod to use semicolons, it'll irritate you if it doesn't have any, but I think in general source mod can work without using semicolons as sort of statement separators, so maybe it just forgave me that one time. We freaking ready to go yet? Alright, bring that up. If I don't see a message on capture, I will cry. That's all. This is a very regular exception that I need to fix. When the round starts, it enters pre-round state before the world is actually instantiated in any way. And apparently when the world isn't instantiated, you can't set team scores. So every time that we go back to pre-round mode, I set the team score to 0 to make sure that it's reset. So if like a group of people are in the server and they leave, the next group of people doesn't inherit their scores, that would be annoying. However, when you do it before the world is created, it gives you an exception for some reason, so beats me. Just another thing to figure out.
We have taken the enemy reactor.
Please give me a message.
I'm not even winded.
Of course it didn't give me a message, because I said please. It knew I wanted that, so it didn't give it to me. Okay, why did that not work? I mean, there's a couple different reasons why that might not have worked, so it's hard to pick which one. Should have been a TF flag event pickup, so if event type is not equal to TF flag event pickup, or the client is invalid, then we do a return. So that's one reason why maybe one of these events actually ended up being false. Don't know why that would be, but okay. God. Or when we're retrieving it, it might be wrong too. So let me look at the retrieval code. So in here we have, we're searching the team reactors array to see which one is equal to the caller. And I'm putting the index to that index. This might be failing for some reason. Do you know it has to be this that fails? Because we are not caring whether or not this client is valid or not. We are always going to print this as long as the index is greater than 1. So what that means is somehow this chunk of code is failing. Where we're just finding the team reactor based on the fact that the caller is the team reactor. So either I'm wrong, even though I remember like 20 minutes ago we printed out something and it said the caller was the reactor ID, or there's a logical problem in the code. Int I is 0, I is less than 2, iterate. Team reactor 0 is equal to caller, set the index. Team reactor is equal to whatever. Why would that not work? I'm pretty sure team reactors is where I store the flag entity IDs. Pretty sure. In fact, I am using it in other places. If caller equals team reactors I. What am I doing here? Flag index, owner equals, enemy equals break. What is this whole part? On flag drop. Oh, this is where I'm telling you whether or not the team reactor's home or not. This is very annoying. It's possible. No, it's still not the problem. Because even if it was an invalid client, it should still be printing it. I mean, we could just do the dumb thing and just print out every conceivable piece of information here just to see what the hell I'm missing. I mean, that's exactly what I'm going to do, apparently. So team reactor at index I is team reactors I, whereas the caller is caller. Can't believe this is the hard part. All right, build it. BT dubs. If there's anything blatantly obvious that I am missing that someone spots and I don't spot, please feel free to bring it up. It's like pair programming over the internet, basically. Because I don't like being stuck. Any more than I like watching other people be stuck, I guess. Alright, so now we are being mega verbose. And basically, server's going to print out exactly what it's thinking when it tries to figure out which thing owns what.
Eat my dust.
Yes.
Here we go.
Enemy reactor core.
I'm not even winded.
Have the core.
Wow. Didn't see that coming. So... okay. The entity that... oh, thanks. The entity that triggered the on capture input does not match either of the flags. Not what I was anticipating. I could check the activator, but I thought that they were exactly the same. I might do that in the meantime while I'm thinking, because that doesn't make any sense. If this ends up not being a flag, and this ends up being... God. That's quite possibly what that is then, is not... It might actually be the, I can't think of the fucking word. It might actually be the trigger zone, the capture area itself. So, I bet that's what's happening. I bet it's not going to tell me what flag got captured. And I bet the only way I'm going to know who captured it is if I get which team captured and I invert it. Because when I get the team that captured it, if blue captured it, then I know it was red's flag. And if I know it was red's flag, then I can go back to my array where I keep track of who picked up red's flag last. And then they'll be the client that actually ended up with the right entity. Oh my god, that is so... Do you see how Rube Goldberg that is? The CTF entities in this are by far some of the dumbest entities in the game. And I kind of mean that in every sense of the word. Like, not only are they dumb to work with, but they are the most basic. They're not tied to any game mode. They're just entities you can drop in anywhere, and CTF will just like, ooh, it'll work. So, damn, that's stupid. But I do have a way, so fuck it. Onward and upward. Alright, now we're not playing upward, we're playing arena. So if we go to on capture, all this logic is bullshit. But if I continue down here, I've got some other logic where I'm actually figuring out which team is doing what. Oh yeah, in fact I already knew the caller was the capture zone because I'm checking to see whether or not this is the right capture zone. Hilarious! Then I'm checking which team capped it. So if Team 1 capped it, then red was the capper. If Team 2 capped it, blue was the capper. Then I'm doing the actual spawn base logic. So somewhere in here I want to add in... this is going to be fun. TF team flag owner equals... team enemy team... This is a very handy function I wrote a while ago. Very useful. TF team can't be unassigned ever. This is only ever being... I don't even know why I have this condition here. Otherwise, team is team unassigned. It can only be red or blue, so I'm not even going to check for that case. Team enemy team team. So it's a very useful function where it actually gets the opposing team. Then we say int flag index is we take, oh god, I'm doing it again. Index is view as int flag owner. So it'll be 2 or 3. Subtract 2. Then we say int client is flag last owner flag index. So the opposing team's flag, who picked it up last. Nice pop. There we go. And then we say finally log on capture called client ID was client. Oh. So get rid of all this crap. We're doing it entirely by... We're basically chaining 2 or 3 pieces of information together to get a best guess at who the hell captured the goddamn thing. So that's cool. I don't see any better way of doing this either without getting deep into the game's code and adding in new hooks. But even if I do that, I think that CTF logic is so specialized, I'm not going to find many hooks into the stuff I'm interested in. Thanks, TF2. Thanks, Valve. It's really nice of you. I really hope that like a year from now I don't find like some super easy way to get that information and discover that all that complicated bullshit I've just done could be done in like one single call. But I've been working with CTF for a while in both this and some of No Man's Land, and I just don't think the information's available. You gotta track it yourself. So, anywho. Server should be restarting in a moment. Turn off the magnifier. Bring up the journal, CTL, log. Do this shit. I think I want Chinese food. That's what I want. That's the important thing I've worked out. Might not be able to fix my own fucking game mode, but I'm pretty sure I know what I want for food. Wish I Wish I had more of an interest in pizza, but the fact that we order pizza all the time at work has pretty much killed my interest in pizza.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I like the sig figs here.
Let's get him.
Alright, just get me a captured by client 1 and I'll be happy. And this was supposed to be the easy part. After this I have to simulate touch events, which I think will work, but I've never tested. Client ID -1.
Reactor core.
Why? Why is that the case? Why? Question mark. Two possibilities. One of them is I'm getting the wrong flag index. The other one is that I'm never setting clients at all. Orange chicken is pretty darn good. Orange chicken's the spicy kind, right?
Ends in 10 seconds.
Oh, I really want Chinese food now. Alright, whatever. Let's keep going.
3, 2.
So, there's a couple reasons why this might be the case. This logic might be jacked up. Pretty darn sure it's not. Because basically if I'm storing it in one location in the array and I'm accessing it in the other location of the array, then clearly that's not going to work. But I don't think that's what's happening. According to the documentation, that's how all great bugs start. According to the documentation, the team in Team Play Flag event is supposed to be the team the flag belongs to. And I'm assuming that's correct. But what it might mean is instead the team related to the event. So if I'm on blue team and pick up red's flag, it might not be giving me red team's ID, it might be giving me blue team's ID because it was a blue team event. That would be pretty stupid. So therefore it's quite possible. I mean, so log index is %i, client is %i, and index client. But we might not be getting there, so we're also going to log this. Log event type is I, because remember it's just an integer, won't give me anything interesting. But flag event pickup I know is ID 1, so if it comes back 1, that's good. And client ID is %i, so we say event type and client. Other possibilities include we're not getting a valid client ID for some reason, because I noticed that we both have the player ID, but also the carrier, which should be the same thing. Maybe in the event of a defense, the carrier was the player is the player that killed the flag carrier, and the carrier is the one that was killed. Maybe that's why that exists. But again, who knows? Don't know until you start logging super fucking verbosely, apparently. It'd be really great if I got to the playtest and I didn't have one thing changed. That'd be really nice. But bots work. At that point, I'm just tempted to turn bots on. I don't even have the navigation meshes for any of the maps. I've never even worked out an automated way of doing that. As far as I can tell, you have to actually open up the server, perform a nav generate, and then like wait. There's no other way to do it. So that's not happening in the next hour or half an hour. I guess I never sent up notifications saying, by the way. I should probably send a notification right now. Bum 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 bum. Announcements. At everyone. Playtest in 30 minutes. Don't be late. Of course, I'm probably going to be late. But I'm the admin, so I can say those sorts of things. Okay. Let's see what we got. Well, I mean, I know nothing. It's always disappointing when you build it and you know that nothing is actually going to work. It's just going to give you more debug information. Because you can't even have hope at that point. So for reference, I'm on Team Blue. Team Blue is ID 3. That should correspond to a flag index of 1 because there's only 0 and 1. So if I start seeing things like, oh, I'm flag index 0. Sorry, so our flag is flag index 1, their flag is flag index 0. So if I start seeing things like flag index of 1, I know something's fucked up with the event, and I have to compensate for that. What do we got? Event type is 1, client ID is 0. Client ID is 0. I don't exist.
We've dropped the enemy reactor core.
I hate modding this game. I hate modding this game so much. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Why is this my hobby? Why do I do this to myself? Why? Hello, people who may have checked back in from the previous announcement. You're just witnessing a man finally losing the last remnants of his sanity. I forgot people would probably notice that. Essentially, I'm trying to figure out, literally, who's captured the flag in Team Fortress 2. I'm trying to figure that out programmatically. And thus far, the answer that TF2 has given me is that nobody captures the flag. Everyone is client 0. So I'm in the process of losing my mind. Probably got a little bit left. Got a couple more neurons hanging in there, but if Valve's going to keep telling me that nobody exists, then probably going to lose my mind. Okay. Dev deploy again. Refresh the server. Come on, you can do it. There it is. Build number 402. Let's do it again. And people are like, wow, Awk, why do you play like such shit? Well, the answer is, by the time that the playtest rolls around, I've lost my will to live. So, I think that in some subconscious way, my characters act suicidal and run directly into enemy fire because it would be preferable to continuing on with this crap. Here we go. Let's see if we have a client ID greater than 0 now. That'd be cool. I'd feel pretty good about that. If I could just get a client ID greater than 0. That is my definition of success by now. I've got 25 minutes to the playtest. I don't even think I can get the actual feature working at this point. But if I can leave the stream knowing who capped a flag, then this will have been a success, in my mind. Okay, client ID is 1. Index is 0, client is 1. Index is 0 makes sense because that would be team number 2, so that'll be flag index 0. Fine. Now when I cap it, is it going to actually tell me?
I'm not even winded.
Client ID 1. I'm good. I have it. I know who captured the flag. I know who captured the fucking flag. See if it works again. Just, you know, never know.
Mission ends in 10 seconds.
Event type is 1, client ID is 1. And what are we getting? On capture called client ID 1. Done, done, done. Now, all I have to do is simulate the touch events. Let's do that. So, all entities, or perhaps a lot of entities, have this touch event available to them. Let me see if I can grab that from the from the Valve developer wiki somewhere. By the way, this was like down for like a week at one point. That really made my life much more difficult. Or rather, it should be touch input. So somewhere in here is the touch input. Inputs. I think it's maybe it won't be listed in here, but I'm pretty sure there's a touch input. And you can fire the touch input. I think if I just look up touch, it's going to give me about 1 million results. There's one that's like is valid touch or something. Yeah, there we go. Valid touch. TF power, by the way. That seems to be what most of the pickups inherit from, so. So virtual bool valid touch, virtual bool my touch. So I think there's a way to just send it as an input. Do I remember how that works? No, I think I have some other stuff in my code that's doing touch events though. Like, for instance, when I was trying to block, I was trying to disable point blocking, I'm pretty sure that was all based on touch events. Oh, stop bringing that up. Touch. Just look for touch in my code base. I'm triggering it somewhere. On start touch trigger, on start zone. I might just be blocking events. I might not be triggering any of my own. That's possible. How am I going to do that? I thought touch was an input somewhere. Might be wrong. Was this a valid touch? Does a team member match? Input enable, input disable, is disabled, set disabled. Maybe it was only triggers that I could do. Maybe it was only on triggers. Because the thing is, if I fake a touch event, it needs to be... there's two pieces of information. One of them is what is the health pack that's being touched. The other one is who's doing the touching. It's that second part that's a little bit hard. I might just do the naive thing and just throw it in there as the entity ID and like cross fingers. I really thought there was a place that I was sending touch events in. Maybe it was SDK tools. Really rather not waste time with things that aren't going to work. Actually, let's just go directly to the code. Fuck documentation. Who does that? This is where I vaguely remember something about TF2 or source mod, but I can't remember enough to actually go find it. SDK hook, start touch. You can hook the touch event, but can you send a touch event? I thought you could somehow. These are just offsets at this point. Nothing interesting. Maybe I made an SDK call. Because you can do that. You can actually make SDK calls. And maybe one of the arguments to the SDK call was the entity that was being touched. My uncle is familiar with touch events. That's pretty good. It's a pretty good meme. Now, if only I actually knew how any of this fucking shit worked, then that'd be great. I really wish I had the old No Man's Land code base somewhere around here, because I could have sworn I was playing with that at some point. I think I might be running out of brain energy for this, to be honest. This is where I'm prepping calls. We don't even use this anymore. We don't do drop health pack at any point. Set steerable team, set transmit state. We do that. do. SDK call on player, game rules, or on entity. Entity is really what we're talking about here. SDK call, add parameter. I think this is what I need. What kind of parameters can we add in? C-base entity, C-base player. Oh, I can do a C-base entity? Because that's all I want. I just want the C-base entity. Let's frickin' do it. Like, as if... Let's just do it like it makes some kind of sense. F it. We're doing it. Start, prep, SDK call. SDK call underscore entity because this is an entity we're calling it on. Prep SDK call set from conf. We're going to have to add this into the configuration file. Game data SDK conf virtual because the virtual offsets are somewhere in the source mod code and I can just use them. And it'll be some IC base entity start touch, or maybe just touch, I think. I need to make this more complicated than this. Prep SDK call, add parameter. I'm thinking it just takes another entity. I'm not even checking. That's where we're at right now. We're in straight up mad science territory. SDK type C base entity. Sure. SDK touch equals end prep SDK call. So the two things, I gotta go make that an actual variable that we can use. And the other thing is we need to put it in the configuration file. That's also pretty helpful. I remember No Man's Land, that was freaking tough. Yeah, that was crazy. I look forward to coming back to that in 2020. It was fun, but it was also a mess. And it's going to be very hard from both a technical perspective to clean up the mess and also from just a game design perspective to clean up the mess. You know, there are so many ways in which you could become overpowered or the robots will become overpowered, and you know, there needs to be some way to even that out and keep rounds satisfying. Don't know how to do it yet. I've got some thoughts, some things I really want to try out, but I don't want to promise that for next year. Next year I've got other projects I want to work on. SDK underscore drop. There it is. If this works first time, I'll be over the fucking moon because I'm making so many assumptions right now. Like, a lot of assumptions. Obviously, I don't want this, but just... data... game.tf2. Well, that was useful. Idiot. Oh, there's a game.tf. Somewhere in here is touch. No, it's not. It's got to be in here somewhere, though, because we're hooking it for game rules. God, what did I just say? Hooking it in SDK hooks, so it's got to exist somewhere. Common games? No. Come on, 13 minutes. You can do this. And it's definitely not the TF one. Oh, here, maybe? Because this one said TF2 update, so maybe it's both. SMTF2 games.txt. Now I'm making even more assumptions that this is the same engine as the TF engine. Basically, if this doesn't segfault, I'll be amazed. And if it works, I'll be like super amazed. But the only reason I'm cutting corners right now is because I just want to see if I can get a build out before we start. And this is basically the last period of time I'll have before then. This is it. It's either going to work or it's not going to work. So, fuck it. Let's just put the code in there and pretend it'll work. I'm not gonna put the Mac one in, because who the fuck's running a Mac server anyway? That's right, nobody. Windows is 99, Linux is 100. Of course, Respawn doesn't work on a Windows server anyway, but whatever. Please stop locking up Emacs. Now would be a bad time. There we go. Not that there's ever a good time to lock up, but now is particularly not fun. Cursor's showing up weird? Whatever. Then the only thing we have to do now is actually go into the spawn base code and attempt poorly to replicate what I was trying to do. So spawn base activate. And then, oh god. I don't even think I... Right, on capture, this is what we care about. So we actually need to do this code before we do the activate code, because the activate code is going to also have the client index in it. That's the idea. We're passing that sucker in, and we're going to separate that code out because it has nothing to do with anything. And then we're going to go to spawn base activate and find all the code where we are actually, see, int activator 1, where we're taking away all of the pickups somewhere. Oh, it's here somewhere. There it is. And we're going to go ahead and attempt to fire. God, I don't even know how to do an SDK call, like off the top of my head. But I've done it other places. So I think it's just SDK call, SDK touch, and then it's going to need the thing that's being touched, which is the pickup, and then the thing that's touching it, which is the activator. And then we're doing a disable after we do the call, so it should still be a valid touch. I swear to God if this works. There's no way this is going to work. But we're going to try it. Gotta give it the old college try. I'm in such a rush, it probably doesn't even, it's not even going to compile, probably. I've got 10 minutes. There were other things I wanted to do. Oh well, guess that'll be for dev stream number 3 next weekend sometime. Because apparently this is a thing I'm going to do now. It's fun. So, I don't see any reason not to do it. One error. Number of arguments does not match definition. Why don't you go F yourself? Because I didn't do the SDK call right, that's why. I need something else that I'm doing SDK calls with. Set scramble, set transmit. I literally have a comment there, Valve please fix about the set transmit problem. Why isn't that right? That should be right. 465 in arena respawn dot sp. Might be an easy fix. Oh. SDK pass underscore. I need to pass it as a pointer. How do that? By ref. Or pointer, sorry, pointer. Literally has pointer right there. So when we're creating the SDK call, it needs the entity that's being touched. So it needs to be passed as a pointer, and for some reason it can't just make that assumption, so. You sound like Gabe Newell. Well, I am fat, so the acoustics are very similar. Also, hello Moonly. You have a very strange name, but you have a very awesome looking community, so welcome. This is definitely the tail end here, because I've only got 8 minutes until the playtest, but we're trying our hardest to get a build out. No promises. Software is here to make your life harder, not easier. I'd like to do this as more of a regular thing. I'd like to do shorter streams, but at the same time, it's really hard to get anything significant done in about 2 hours or so. Like, if I'm tackling a completely new problem with Source, usually it takes me 2 hours just to understand the scope of the fucking problem. I mean, God, it took me 3 hours to 3.5 hours, and all we accomplished is slightly better bot AI. And maybe, if I can get this done, the pickup problem getting solved. Let's find out. So in Ravine, which is what we've been testing on, there's an ammo pack. So in theory, I should be able to act as if I've picked up the ammo pack. So in order to make that more apparent, I'm going to go pyro. And just burn a bunch of ammo. Actually, this is perfect. This is the, whatever this is called. Backburner. That burns ammo like nobody's business. So it's really good for ammo testing. Oh, and I should probably bring up my console so I know exactly what happens when I crash the server. Here goes. So I'm down to 40. Actually, no, I can't even. I'm down to 39 ammo. So if it registers as me picking up that ammo pack, it should go from 35. Normally go to 135, but everything is halved on my server. So it should go from 35 to 85. Right? That's how math works.
Mission ends in 10 seconds.
Okay. Just need to go find the place I'm logging all that data that I don't care about. Yeah, I don't care about these logs. I might actually have a build. I might actually have an actual honest-to-God fucking build. With an actual honest-to-God fucking bug fix.
Let's waste some.
Why am I going scout? Let's just go soldier. That'll damage myself. So in this map, there is a health pickup. And normally, prior to this change, that's definitely working and in no way buggy. When you went to go cap the flag, you would never be able to get the health pickup. So I'm going to self-damage myself. I'm at 67 health. If I pick up the medium health pack, I should get to 167. Typically, when you would cap the flag, you wouldn't be able to touch the medium health pack. But if I cap the flag and I go up to 167 health immediately, then we know it works.
We have taken the enemy reactor core.
Oh, I have a bug fix. Very exciting. Okay, I'm not going to touch the health. Not going to touch the health. Counts. Counts.
The enemy reactor.
I'm done. I'm out. Build finished. It's been fun, guys. I'm gonna go ahead, stage, push that up. So I just removed a couple of the debug messages. We don't need spamming the logs. Okay, now I just need to check out the master branch, merge in the development branch, and push that up. So while it's building a new build of the development branch, which isn't really going to be necessary, we're going to build the master branch. We actually have success. We have fixed a bug. Well, we've made a gameplay improvement is really what we've done. So upon capping, you do the pickup. And if you don't need the pickup, in theory, it'll fire the touch event and nothing will happen, but it gets removed in the same frame anyway, so it shouldn't make any difference. Oh my god, we have a build. So now all I have to do is go in here and run a particular play, Ansible playbook, and that does an automatic refresh of both the live servers, which is pretty cool. Before I would have had to SSH into both of these servers and bore myself to death. Yeah, okay, so if I add the tag in, it doesn't do the reboot, but I want to do the reboot. Do a full refresh, download the new plugin version, do a reboot. That's it. All right, I feel pretty good about that. So we're going to go ahead and do a playtest in apparently 2 minutes here, provided my server doesn't crash. It's been really fun. I'll see you guys sometime for another dev stream, I'm sure. I'm certainly enjoying doing these, so I will probably keep that up next weekend sometime. So yeah, see you guys in the playtest.